Chapter 1524. It was impossible to defeat these pseudo-ancestors in a short period of time, and Su Yun did not have much time to waste on them. Since Qing wanted to help him obtain the stone tablet, he had to get rid of these people in the shortest time possible, and the battle between the two ancestors gave him the best opportunity. Su Yun gritted his teeth and continued to approach the place where the two ancestors were fighting. With every step he took, the destructive power in the air increased by a layer, and his body seemed to be on the verge of collapsing at any time. The ancient sorcerer god and the others were not willing to give up on chasing Su Yun, even though they were not feeling well. But if they gave up, Su Yun could escape in another direction. Force him to Lord Dark Sky, and then we will work together to restrain Yongyi, and let Lord Dark Sky kill him. Yongyi has been suppressed by Lord Dark Sky to the point where he cannot retaliate and is covered in injuries. His strength is not as strong as before, and we have a chance of winning. The primordial witch god said. The other two nodded. The Lion King is currently recuperating outside, and without him, we cannot activate the primordial god formation and can only restrain the ancestors, but not fight them. This will affect our strength greatly, and we need to let the Lion King recover quickly and support us. The primordial witch god said slowly. Don't worry. The Leonis King has the treasure bestowed by Lord Dark Sky, the life-prolonging divine pill. It can forcibly return his small world to its original state. I believe it won't take long for him to recover. Upon hearing about the life-replenishing divine pill, both of them revealed looks of envy. This pill was refined from the souls of 10 peak ascendant gods. These souls were the souls of those who did not surrender when the primordial celestial gods' council conquered the world. Because the primordial Lion Monarch had found the space-time wheel and offered it to Dark Heaven, Dark Heaven had given it to the primordial Lion Monarch. Dark Heaven then used the space-time wheel to speed up the appearance of the ancient stone steel, hoping to use it to refine the ancient stone steel and use it to make it his own treasure. If he had the life-extending divine pill, the primordial Lion King would not be in any danger. The terrifying aura around them was extremely thick. Although they were pseudo-primogenitors, they were only at the peak of the sealed god realm. If they continued forward, their bodies would be torn apart. These heavenly kings had already stopped moving forward, and Su Yun, who was in front, had also stopped. This was already their limit. We'll stand guard here. The primogenitor's aura over there is much stronger than here. The three of us will work together to seal this place. We want to see how long that fellow can last. If he plans to go around and escape, we'll do the same. The aura over there is so terrifying. He'll only be slower than us. The primordial venerable said. All right, everyone agreed with the primordial venerable's plan. It was not a wise choice to forcefully kill Su Yun now. After all, Su Yun was not easy to deal with. Furthermore, the battle over there was even more intense, so it was not good to act rashly. The three of them stood guard here and did not move forward even half a step. They only used their spells to defend against the shock waves from the battle between the two progenitors. But right at this moment, a dense burst of spatial energy erupted from Su Yun's palm, and he instantly disappeared, leaving behind only a clear spatial orbit at his location. Space-type magic treasure? The three of their expressions changed. Su Yun had actually used a space-type magic treasure to escape. This person is so cunning. He actually used a space-type magic treasure to escape. How shameless! The primordial elephant monarch said angrily. Escape? You think he can escape? The primordial venerable snorted coldly and said in a low voice, We are not ordinary immortals. How dare he use such insignificant tricks to embarrass himself? What a joke. Both of you, follow me and protect me. The spatial orbit is still there. Watch me drag him back. All right. The primordial elephant monarch nodded and advanced with the sorcerer god. The two of them activated their spells, and a huge barrier enveloped the three of them as they moved forward. The primordial venerable was proficient in the venerable Tao technique, and he was also proficient in spatial techniques. How could they not be prepared for something like using a magic treasure to escape? At this moment, Su Yun had indeed used the teleportation talisman to return to the encampment. However, he knew that he would not be able to return for long. Once he entered the encampment, Su Yun rushed towards the main hall. At the same time, he spoke in a voice loud enough for everyone in the encampment to hear. Everyone, gather in the meeting hall, quickly. With that said, the encampment immediately became restless. Because of the battle between eternal night and dark sky, the encampment was also struck by the ancestors' remaining power. Su Luluo was commanding his men to build up their defenses, and upon hearing the news, everyone rushed towards the meeting hall. But Su Yin could not wait for long. He spoke again. His voice was like thunder, spreading in all directions. Gather all your strength and attack the ninth heaven. When the voice fell, a gigantic spatial crack suddenly appeared in the meeting hall. A gigantic hand extended out from the crack and grabbed the entire meeting hall. Even Su Yun was not spared. When everyone rushed to the meeting hall, it had already turned into ruins. Everyone stared blankly at the scene before them. When Su Luluo rushed over, Wei Ming and the rest anxiously asked, "Miss, what should we do now? Master seems to be in trouble," Xingbai said in a deep voice. "I'm not sure, but did you feel that spatial crack just now? Do you know how strong the person behind crack is?" Su Luluo asked. With that said, everyone looked at each other, but no one said a word. His aura is even stronger than the great immortals. Perhaps he's the strongest great immortal, or perhaps he's an existence that surpasses the great immortal. Just then, a voice floated over from afar, and they saw Octagon Aniseed leading a group of great demons towards them. Everyone looked over. An existence that surpasses the great immortal? What level is it? Su Luluo asked. He should be at the same level as Lord Demon Lord. This person is using the spatial orbit to forcefully drag Lord Demon Lord back. A great demon beside Octagon Aniseed said. Su Luluo was silent for a moment, then asked, "Can you track their location?" "I'm afraid not. There are very few people among us who are proficient in spatial divine arts. Adding on the fact that the other party is powerful, they will quickly erase the spatial orbit. We don't have time to chase after them." The great demon said, "Since that's the case, then immediately gather your strength and set off for the ninth heaven." Su Luluo shouted, "We currently know nothing about the situation. Lord Demon Lord has gone to the ancient ruins. Why does he want us to go to the ninth heaven? Don't tell me you don't want to investigate." The Nether Empress walked over and said, "There's no time. Since Big Brother has given such an order in such a critical situation, we must act immediately." Su Luluo said with a swift and fierce voice, "Immediately stop all defenses, send out all the forces that can be used, split into 2 groups, and head towards the ninth heaven, quickly." When everyone heard this, they immediately took action. "Cooperate with Miss Su and move out immediately," Octagon Aniseed said to the great demon behind him. The great demons nodded and immediately prepared. At this time, 2 figures walked over. Everyone was busy and did not notice them. "Luluo." Just then, a light cry came out. Hearing that, Su Luluo looked over, only to see Realm Master and Hu Qianmei walking over. Realm Master looked extremely weak. Her small face was extremely pale, and her forehead was overflowing with sweat. "What's going on?" Su Luluo sensed that something was amiss and immediately ran over. She used the fate-telling technique again. Hu Qianmei sighed. "If Big Brother knew, he would definitely scold us." Su Luluo said, "Now is not the time to think about this, Luluo. This is the perfect time to disintegrate the Eternal God Council. I just used the fate-telling technique to peek at fate and discovered that the ninth heaven is filled with 33 mechanisms, and each mechanism is laid down by the 4 heavenly kings of the Eternal God Council. Bring me along. I can help you break through the mechanisms." The Realm Master said, "No, your body is so weak and your cultivation is not high. How can you endure the journey?" If Su Yin knew that something had happened to the Realm Master because of this matter, he would probably go crazy again. There's no time. Su Yun's current situation is very critical. We only have this one chance, If we do not take this chance to get rid of the Eternal God Council, we will have to pay a painful price in the future," the Realm Master said firmly. Su Luluo looked at her bright eyes, hesitated for a moment, but in the end, nodded his head. The four great heavenly kings, Dark Sky and Long Shinru, were all in the primordial ruins, so the ninth heaven should be extremely empty. Even if there were experts at the peak of the god realm guarding the place, with the great demons of the true devil realm, they would be able to easily defeat them. With the experts in the encampment, it would not be difficult to take down the Eternal God Council's nest. Right now, he only needed to think of a way to restrain these people. When Su Yun was captured, he was immediately attacked, but what he did not expect was that there were actually 4 opponents this time. The primordial Lion King had also participated in the battle and was standing in front of him unscathed. "What's going on?" Su Yun's face changed and anxiously retreated. Fortunately, the location of the battle between Yong Yi and Dark Sky had changed, and the ancestors' chi was not as terrifying as before. However, the 4 heavenly kings had also changed. They no longer blindly attacked Su Yun, but split into 4 directions, east, west, and west, surrounding him. The 4 of them closed their eyes and chanted softly, as though they were activating some sort of technique. Su Yun felt that something was wrong. With a wave of his hand, the Heaven Destroyer sword flew over and rushed towards the weakest primordial Elephant King. "Come at me." The primordial Elephant King suddenly opened his eyes, and a gigantic divine elephant image appeared behind him. The divine elephant image raised both of its feet and fiercely stomped down towards Su Yun. The terrifying power seemed to want to shatter the void. Su Yun was forced to retreat. He released close to 10,000 sword chi-s, but when the sword chi flew over and struck the primordial Elephant King's body, it was unable to cause him any harm. What was going on? When did the primordial Elephant King's defense become so terrifying? Chapter 1525. This was too abnormal. Su Yun's expression turned cold. He raised his sword and rushed toward the ancient Lion King on the other side. But when the sharp sword struck out, it was still unable to cause any injuries to the ancient Lion King. Instead, a gigantic lion image appeared behind the ancient Lion King and bit towards him. Su Yun dodged and took the opportunity to probe the ancient sage and the ancient witch god. As expected, the 2 of them had extremely terrifying defenses, and even the Heaven Destroyer sword was unable to leave a mark on them. Behind them, a shadow and an evil god also appeared, preventing them from getting close. Only then did Su Yun realize that he seemed to have fallen into some sort of array formation. There was no array core, no array seal, but an ancient array formation that used the body and the ancestors' chi as the foundation. Their defense should have been a combination of the 4 of them. It was extremely terrifying. Could it be that they had already joined together through this array formation? Su Yun tried to find a breakthrough from other places, but the 4 phantoms of the 4 seemed to be linked together. No matter where he tried to break through, he would be intercepted by the phantoms. It could be said to be flawless, without any flaws. However, just trapping Su Yun was not the 4 ancient kings' final method. Just then, in the area around the 4 ancient kings, the space suddenly distorted and the dense ancestors' power started to pour in like a tide. Su Yun felt that his own power was instantly suppressed by an even more terrifying power. Not only that, even the chi waves produced by the ancestors' fight were unable to leak out and were completely isolated. The array formation that the 4 ancient kings had activated together was actually comparable to the ancestors' power. Su Yun felt as if he was locked in a steel cage, unable to escape, and could only watch as the butcher's knife extended towards him. He took a deep breath. In this situation, he could not panic. It was extremely easy for the 4 powerful pseudo-ancestors to trap him. Although he had obtained the inheritance of the Devil Saint, and the pseudo-ancestor realm was stronger than any one of the 4 ancient kings. But in the end, a pseudo-ancestor was still a pseudo-ancestor. No matter how strong he was, he could not easily kill the 4 of them. If he wanted to break out of this cage, he could only use the ancestors' methods. Su Yun's mind spun quickly. The memories of the Demon Saint's inheritance also quickly flashed through his mind. and very quickly, he understood what he had to do. The pseudo-primogenitor had a small world and could use the primogenitor's power. Although the pseudo-primogenitor's power was very weak compared to the real primogenitor's power, it was like comparing a newborn baby to an adult man. Even so, the newborn baby's power was still power. In essence, it was the same kind of power as the primogenitor. This meant that the pseudo-primogenitor could use the primogenitor's power. Su Yun sat down cross-legged, the heavenly will sword and the heaven-exterminating sword circling around him. As though they were protecting him, the small world in his body started to operate at a high speed. The unending stream of ancestral power started to scatter around his body, as though it was out of his control. Rumble! A loud sound exploded beside Su Yun. The four heavenly kings slowly opened their eyes and looked at Su Yun. What is he doing? I think there's nothing we can do. Everyone, let's not waste any more time. Let's work together and bury this man. Imprison his soul and find the whereabouts of his sword. All right. The four heavenly kings used their mind instructs in a second to transmit their words, and then the four of them exerted their strength. The gigantic shadows behind them immediately opened their arms and held onto each other tightly, and the shadows started to distort, continuously gathering towards the top of the middle, as though there was some strange suction force pulling them. However, in the face of this strange scene, Su Yun still sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, completely ignoring it, as though he had already separated from the world, and the two swords beside him, at this time, overlapped each other, spinning and flying above his head. Crash! Suddenly, a thick and terrifying devil power erupted from Su Yun's body. The devil power seemed to have its own consciousness, immediately converging onto the overlapping heavenly will sword and the heaven-exterminating sword. Using the two swords as a mold, it formed an incomparably huge pitch-black demon sword. When the demon sword appeared, the entire formation's chi field was compressed. The power of the demon sword was actually able to contend against the formation's power that the four heavenly kings had jointly activated. This was simply unbelievable, but the four heavenly kings did not know how much power Su Yun had used. The power of the Devil Dao was originally a method to squeeze out one's potential and completely release all of one's abilities. The reason why the power of the Devil Dao was so feared by the immortal world was because every single one of its methods had power that exceeded the imagination of ordinary people. However, very few people knew that the price of this power was extremely harsh conditions and unbearable pain. And at this moment, Su Yun was using a technique inherited from the demon saint to break the four heavenly kings' formation. This technique was to take out all of the power that was hidden in the depths of his bone marrow, the bloodline barrier, and the power of any grain of sand or drop of water in the small world. The destruction caused was not something that the four heavenly kings could imagine. Very quickly, the shadows of the four heavenly kings had already converged into an incomparably huge ball of primal chaos above Su Yun. The ball of primal chaos increased the gravity in the area to nearly 10 million times, causing the void to shatter, but Su Yun's body was completely unaffected by the distorted and shattered void. However, the ball of primal chaos slowly descended, and an increasingly strong gravity appeared, wanting to crush Su Yun into powder. This terrifying power even caused Dark Sky, who was still fighting with Yongyi, to raise his eyebrows. I never thought that this person would actually force the four heavenly kings to use such a method. It seems like I have underestimated him all these years. Dark Sky muttered and continued to rush towards Yongyi, who was at the end of his rope. It's over. The four heavenly kings roared at the same time, releasing their strength. The ball of primal chaos suddenly smashed downwards. The unstoppable gigantic ball descended at a high speed, as though it wanted to crush everything. Break! Just then, Su Yun suddenly opened his eyes, raising both of his hands. The gigantic demon sword above his head flew up with the power to break the sky. The demon's sword roared like a hot knife through butter. The aura of the ball of primal chaos mixed with the demon's sword's aura, the terrifying chi wave instantly shattered the four heavenly kings' formation. The four of them were sent flying, spitting out blood, and Su Yun was not feeling well either. His 7 apertures were bleeding, his face was pale white, his internal organs were trembling crazily. The small world was also shaking uncontrollably and was about to collapse. This attack had consumed almost all of his strength. But whether or not he could win depended on this attack. The demon sword and the ball of primal chaos clashed, neither retreating, but the sword's edge was too sharp. After the 4 heavenly kings were sent flying, they did not immediately continue to send energy towards the ball of primal chaos. But after Su Yun was injured, he was still persevering. Gradually, the demon sword's edge tore apart the ball of primal chaos. The surface of the gigantic ball slowly started to have a large number of cracks and patterns. But with a dong sound, it was as though his eardrums had exploded. The demon sword directly pierced through the ball of primal chaos, completely shattering it. The fragments of the ball of primal chaos shot out in all directions, like shooting stars, shooting far away. Seeing that, the 2 ancestors who were still fighting stopped and activated their magic power to block. And the moment the ball of primal chaos was shattered, Su Yun used his last bit of willpower to control the demon sword to attack the 4 heavenly kings. Seeing that, Dark Sky's face changed. He immediately rushed towards Su Yun, intending to stop him. But how could Yong Yi let Dark Sky succeed? He immediately chased after him, forcing him to fight. Being entangled by Yong Yi, Dark Sky could not escape, and could only watch as the terrifying demon sword slashed towards the injured 4 heavenly kings. No! The first to be attacked was the primordial Lion King. He had used the life-extending divine pill to cooperate with the other 3 heavenly kings to activate the primordial god formation, thinking that he would be able to kill Su Yun without any flaws. But who would have thought that Su Yun's methods would be so terrifying to actually break their primordial god formation? Facing the terrifying demon sword that was as fast as lightning, he who was heavily injured and had little strength left was unable to dodge, much less defend. He shouted at the top of his lungs, but no one could save him. The demon sword pierced through and tore his body into pieces. Su Yun activated the demon sword again and rushed towards the other primordial elephant king. The primordial elephant king anxiously ran, but where could he run to? He was immediately chased by the demon sword and met the same fate as the primordial Lion King. The Lord and the sorcerer gods' faces turned ugly. They looked towards Dark Sky and saw that Dark Sky wanted to save them, but was entangled by Yong Yi and was powerless. The Lord immediately shouted at the sorcerer god, "We can't run. Why don't we work together and attack the main body? He has unleashed such a powerful attack. He must have reached his limit. Maybe his situation is even worse than ours. If we kill him, this strange sword will definitely be destroyed." All right. The primordial sorcerer god's eyes lit up, and he agreed with the Lord's suggestion. The 2 of them abandoned all their defenses and directly rushed towards Su Yun, their speed so fast that it left people speechless. The sorcerer god chanted something loudly and suddenly opened his mouth, spitting out a ray of gray light. It was a cursed power that carried the laws of death. This power flew out, and anyone who touched it would die. Su Yun used all his strength to raise the sword sheath and block the power. The strength of the limitless sword sheath that could seal the ominous sword was terrifying, and after the seal loosened, Su Yun felt that the ominous sword's power had started to affect the sword sheath, causing the sword sheath's strength to increase to an extremely terrifying level. Maybe the person who created the limitless sword sheath was not very strong, but the person who sealed the ominous sword inside was probably extremely terrifying. Su Yun had even guessed more than once that the ominous sword was sealed inside the sword sheath, not intentionally, but Ling Qingyu entered it willingly. Otherwise, with the power of the ominous sword, who in the world could seal it? This attack caught the primordial sorcerer god off guard, but at this time, the primordial lord also launched an attack, and a talisman silently landed beside Su Yun and stuck to his body. This time, you will die without a doubt. The primordial lord laughed coldly, and suddenly took out a small figurine. and the moment the talisman stuck to Su Yun's body, Su Yun realized that he was unable to move. Chapter 1526. You've been hit by my divine puppet technique. Now, you're completely under my control. Die. The primordial sovereign laughed out loud as he controlled Su Yun to ride the demon's sword towards Su Yun. However, the demon's sword did not pierce through Su Yun. Instead, it suddenly changed direction and slashed toward the primordial witch god. The witch god was caught off guard and was instantly killed. When the primordial supremacy saw this, he was stunned. Although you can use your divine incantation to control me, you have forgotten that there are two swords with complete intelligence hidden within this demonic sword. Even if you control me, they will be able to distinguish who deserves to be killed. Su Yun said weakly. The demon sword struck out once more towards the primordial sovereign. Damn it! The primordial sovereign did not expect Su Yun's sword to have reached a level where it could communicate with a human. Even if he controlled Su Yun, he would not be able to turn the situation around. Sensing the incoming demon sword, the primordial sovereign did not dare to hesitate. He slashed through the air, and a crack appeared. He dove into the crack and disappeared, leaving behind only a clear spatial track. This was an escape method similar to the teleportation talisman. The primordial sovereign had grasped the spatial divine technique and could use it at will. However, Su Yun's understanding of spatial divine techniques was extremely shallow, so he could not use the spatial track to capture the primordial sovereign. He dispersed the demon sword and kept the heavenly will sword and the heaven destroyer sword as he stood in the air, panting heavily. Although the primordial sovereign had escaped, it was something that he could do. At this moment, a beautiful figure leaped over from behind and landed in front of the spatial track with lightning speed. The beautiful figure grabbed at the air and extended her hand towards the spatial track. When she retracted her hand, a figure immediately flew out of the track. It was the primordial sovereign. Qing. Su Yun looked at the beautiful figure in shock. It's about time. Su Qing called out. She turned and grabbed towards the primordial sovereign. A terrifying power shot out from her palm and enveloped the shocked primordial sovereign before tearing him into pieces. This technique was extremely terrifying. The primordial sovereign did not even have time to react before he was killed. The power of this technique was simply terrifying. What a pure ancestor's aura. When Su Qing made her move, it immediately shocked Yong Yi and Dark Sky. The two of them separated again and looked towards Su Qing. To them, Qing Er's threat was no less than Su Yun's. But at the same time, a rainbow-colored light suddenly shot out from the center of the primordial ruins. The light turned into a heavenly pillar that seemed to connect the heavens and earth. A miraculous ancient power overflowed from the rainbow-colored heavenly pillar and quickly filled the entire primordial ruins. Yong Yi and Dark Sky's expressions changed drastically when they saw this. The stone tablet has appeared. Qing also exclaimed. She turned her head, looked at Su Yun, and anxiously shouted, "Young master, quickly go in." Su Yun did not dare to hesitate. He nodded and rushed towards the rainbow-colored light pillar. Vaguely, he seemed to see a huge stone tablet floating in the center of the pillar of light. "Ants, how dare you touch God's miracle?" Dark Sky was enraged. His palm covered the sky and grabbed towards Su Yun. At the same time, Qing made her move as well. She waved her hands, causing the void to distort and transform into a chain that wrapped around Dark Sky's hand. "Yongyi, you are at the end of your rope. You can't win against Dark Sky. You'll be killed by him sooner or later, and even if you win against Dark Sky, Hao Tian will not let you go. You can only choose to join hands with me to kill Dark Sky. If not, both of us will die." Qing shouted. Although she had completed her reincarnation and stepped into the primordial ancestor realm, she knew that her strength was still lacking compared to Dark Sky. She could feel it. Hearing that, Yongyi gritted his teeth and nodded. "All right, I will temporarily join hands with you." He did not dare to raise any conditions. The current him did not even have the qualifications to talk about conditions. To be able to join hands with Qing was already his greatest fortune. The two of them attacked Dark Sky at the same time. Qing Er's primordial ancestor's power was extremely pure, adding that she was in her peak condition. Her aura suppressed dark sky, and together with Yongyi, dark sky was actually unable to hold on. Dark sky retreated continuously, unable to get close to the ancient stone tablet. He stared at Qing Er and asked coldly, "Who exactly are you?" "Who I am is not important. What is important is that if you do not leave today, you will die here." Qing Er said coldly. "Die? Do you think the two of you can kill me?" Dark Sky snorted, releasing his aura. He waved a black robe and threw it into the sky. The sky was covered, and countless rays of deathly still light shot out from the black screen, striking towards the two of them. Light of eternal night. Yongyi activated his technique again. His palms were like blazing suns, releasing waves of gray light, welcoming the deathly still light. Just that Yongyi was already at the end of his rope. In the previous battle with Dark Sky, he had used up a lot of energy and his body was riddled with injuries. It was impossible for him to fight against Dark Sky head-on. But it was fortunate that Qing, who was by his side, was not an ordinary person. She flipped her hands, and two round light auras flew out from her palms. One of the light auras gradually became scorching and glaring. The other slowly became cold and dim. And finally, the two light auras transformed into a sun and moon, revolving around each other, striking towards Dark Sky. Yongyi defended. Qing attacked. Dark Sky was naturally at a disadvantage. Adding that Su Yun had entered the light pillar, it made him extremely worried. The stone tablet would only appear for a day. He had to refine the stone tablet before it returned to the seal. If not, all his meticulous preparations would be for naught. Dark Sky hastily dodged Qing Er's attack, but his skin was burnt by the sun and moonlight. He released a low and painful groan, but ignored the two of them, intending to rush towards the stone tablet. It was impossible for Dark Sky to deal with the two ancestors in a day. Since that was the case, he could only choose to forcefully seize the stone tablet. But Qing had always been on guard against Dark Sky, not letting him get close to the stone tablet. And before Dark Sky could even get close, a fierce attack came again. Dark Sky was no longer in the mood to continue fighting. He gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, "You two, stop right now." "Do you intend to surrender?" Qing asked. "Surrender? This can only be considered a negotiation." Dark Sky said solemnly, "I don't think you can defeat me. And even if you can, I'm afraid the two of you will have to pay a painful price. But this is not what you and I hope for. Now, I will tell you my plan. I have a divine object in my hands. It is a treasure left behind by an ancient almighty being. The creation of the equipment was left behind when the heavens and earth were created. It is called the time-space wheel. With it, I can perfectly refine this ancient stone tablet. The ancient stone tablet contains the insights of the ancient experts, with just 1 day of comprehension. The peak of the conferred God realm will have the chance to step into the ancestor realm. If I can perfectly control it, maybe our ancestors can step into an even stronger realm. Don't you want it? Dark Sky's words did not attract Qing at all. She already knew Dark Sky's plan, but Yongyi was different. "What you said, is it true? You can really refine the ancient stone tablet?" Yongyi asked with a trembling voice. "Of course. We can work together. As long as we work together, we will have the ability to reach a realm stronger than the ancestors. How about it?" Dark Sky said in a low voice. With that said, Yongyi was tempted. He had planned this great stone tablet competition with the goal of obtaining the stone tablet. He originally wanted to rely on absorbing the soul of the peak of the conferred God realm, and then use it to comprehend the stone tablet for a day to try and break through. Even though the chances of doing so were slim, at least there was hope, but compared to what Dark Sky said, it was nothing. "He is just using you. Do you really think he will let you come into contact with the stone tablet? If he refines the stone tablet, he will definitely take it for himself. You are not as strong as him. Sooner or later, you'll be wiped out by him. He wants to be the master of all worlds. How can he allow others to stand side by side with him?" Qing also spoke up. If Yongyi rebelled at this time, she would be in danger. Fortunately, Yongyi was not a fool. He knew that even if he worked together with Dark Sky, it would be difficult to see through the stone tablet. He immediately shook his head. "Forget it. She is right. I have no advantage over you. I am not qualified to work with you. You don't trust me? Strictly speaking, yes. If that's the case, then you can rest assured. Dark Sky suddenly took out a huge artifact that looked like a crescent moon. The artifact seemed to be made of pure jade. It was magnificent, but the two ancestors could see that the crescent moon was engraved with a world that was smaller than a grain of rice. This crescent moon was like a universe containing countless worlds, bearing countless civilizations. The moment it appeared, Yongyi and Qing immediately became infatuated. Treasure. This was definitely a treasure. The ancestors had seen countless treasures, but this was the first time they had seen such an artifact. The conditions to activate this treasure are extremely harsh. If I succeed in refining the stone tablet, my own strength will be exhausted, and at that time, I will not be able to kill you. So what are you worried about? I can give you the stone tablet first, and let you comprehend it first. Isn't that better? If you finish comprehending it, the stone tablet will be useless to me. So why shouldn't I give it to you? If we continue to fight like this, the stone tablet will be sealed again sooner or later, and if that happens, neither of us will be able to obtain the stone tablet, and we will have to wait for another 100,000 years. 100,000 years. No one knows what will happen. Are you really not willing to work with me? Dark Sky didn't use any force in his voice, but his attitude was clear. Yongyi was silent. He could also feel the power and terror of the space-time wheel, and activating such a treasure was definitely not easy. Qing's heart tightened. She stared at Yongyi, who was hesitating, and immediately said, Yongyi, if you fall for his trick, you will die a terrible death. Do not work with him. No, I choose to work with him. Yongyi seemed to not want to listen to Qing anymore. He suddenly turned and stared at her coldly. At this moment, Yongyi's killing intent was extremely strong, and he looked straight at Qing. Chapter 15:27. The situation outside was constantly changing, and the sudden change was unexpected. Su Yun, who was in the pillar of light, could clearly see the changes outside. He wanted to go out and help Qing, but he knew that he could not do it with his current strength. The only thing he could do now was to try his best to comprehend the stone tablet. Wait a minute. Su Yun suddenly thought about it. Just now, Dark Sky said that he wanted to use the wheel of time and space to refine the stone tablet. Could it be that the stone tablet could be refined? Thinking about it, if he could obtain the stone tablet, the benefits would be innumerable. The stone tablet was not only engraved with words, but also a large number of small worlds. The lowest level of these small worlds were the pseudo-ancestors' small worlds. The civilization here was monstrous and dazzling, and it was of utmost importance to the development of the small world in Su Yun's body. Furthermore, the inheritance that the demon saint had given him could answer many questions. With only a day's time, it was impossible to completely understand the stone tablet. Forget about a day. Even 10 days or 100 days would not be enough. Only by taking it away could he achieve all of this. Su Yun's gaze turned and landed on the sword sheath behind him. It was impossible for Qing to defend him for a day under the combined attacks of two ancestors. As matters stood, he could only take the stone tablet away. He took a deep breath, took out the sword sheath, and flew towards the stone tablet. Taking advantage of the fact that the stone tablet had not entered the seal, Su Yun immediately opened the sword sheath and enveloped the gigantic stone tablet. The limitless sword sheath's mouth immediately surged with endless spatial energy, like a giant's hand grabbing onto the stone tablet. It frantically pulled it in. The stone tablet shook slightly, but it only shook and did not show any signs of moving. Seeing that, Su Yun immediately grabbed the limitless sword sheath and smashed it towards the stone tablet. However, the sword sheath's mouth seemed to have lost its suction force and was unable to swallow the stone tablet. After all, this was a stone tablet created by a terrifying ancient existence and was related to the creator of the world. How could it be taken away so easily? Su Yun clenched his teeth and channeled all of his strength into the sword sheath, wanting to forcefully swallow the stone tablet. However, after the battle, he did not have much strength left, and activating the sword sheath was already his limit. If this goes on, I won't be able to bring the stone tablet away. Su Yun clenched his teeth and released his hand. The sword sheath automatically swallowed the stone tablet, but without Su Yun's support, the sword sheath's swallowing strength became even weaker. He took a deep breath and sat cross-legged in front of the stone tablet. Now that things had come to this, he could only try to comprehend the contents of the stone steel so that his cultivation could break through. If his cultivation increased a little, the small world in his body would also develop a little. At that time, he would be able to produce progenitor's power and increase the sword box's devouring of the stone steel. Su Yun raised his eyes and looked at the top of the stone tablet. There were a few runes and a small world. However, when his gaze landed on that line of content, his entire soul seemed to sink deep into it. Su Yun realized that for some reason, he had already entered a strange world. This world was filled with resplendent diamond-like substances, and on top of this substance, there were many snow-white creatures that looked like spirits. They frolicked, danced, and laughed merrily among the diamonds. Where's this? Su Yun looked at the sky and the ground, only to discover that everywhere was lustrous white. Other than himself, he could not find any other color. Have you ever felt despair? Just then, an elf walked towards Su Yun, releasing a low voice, as if an ancient tree was slowly collapsing. Where is this? Su Yun looked at the elf vigilantly. This is your world, the elf said slowly. My world. Su Yun was startled. My small world? Impossible. My small world is not Snow White. A civilization has already been born there. My world is not like this. Then, take a closer look, the elf said, then leaped up and flew upwards. Seeing that, Su Yun followed closely. The two figures continued to rise, but the surroundings were still snow white, unable to find another color. Su Yun was suspicious, but not long after, a strange smell entered his nostrils. Su Yun's heart froze. As though he had sensed something, he increased his flying speed. Very quickly, other colors appeared in his line of sight, but there was still only one color. Gray. Endless gray. This was a deathly color, a stark contrast to the white world below him. Su Yun thought for a moment, then went up again, but the surrounding deathly stillness became more and more, until only a small was left in the white world, and it still did not change. This is your small world. That is where your small world sprouted, and your surroundings are the civilization of your small world, the elf said. At this moment, Su Yun was suddenly enlightened. His small world, on the surface, looked like it was already developing a civilization, but in reality, it was in a state of decay. In the end, he was a fake ancestor, and this small world was created by the demon saint, not by Su Yun's own strength. And in the subsequent development of the small world, Su Yun was unable to follow the correct direction, so the small world was deathly silent. He needed to activate this dying small world and revive it. This line of words allowed him to clearly recognize his own small world and also understand his current source of power. The spirit disappeared, as if it was Su Yun's heart. Su Yun took a deep breath and roamed around, looking at his own world. When he saw it clearly, he suddenly trembled, and his soul seemed to have returned to his body, and he became clear-headed. If he wanted his own small world to continue to advance and develop, the first thing he had to do was to clearly recognize his own small world. Su Yun looked at the small world in his body, which looked like it had already developed a civilization, but in reality, it was extremely rotten. Su Yun did not know why it was like this, and with full of suspicions, he placed his gaze on the second line of the stone tablet. However, it was still just a glance, and he was deeply immersed in it, unable to extricate himself. There were very few words on the second line, but it only expressed one meaning: order in the heart. A small world appeared in the second line, but this small world was no longer Su Yun's, but a nameless expert's small world. Through this small world, Su Yun could clearly understand what the small world in the ancestor expert's body looked like and how powerful it was. And the main factor that caused this kind of power was the meaning expressed by those words: order in the heart. It turned out that Su Yun's small world had always been left unchecked, and the small world that allowed it to develop had lost its order. On the surface, the small world seemed to be developing, but in reality, it was already extremely rotten. Countless factors that destroyed order in the small world were trampling on his power, hindering the advancement of civilization, and even showing signs of destroying civilization and collapsing the small world. And all of this, Su Yun was completely unaware. His entire body quivered, and he felt a lingering fear, but since he had discovered it, it was too late. He jumped into the world of that expert, and carefully understood the power and profoundness of his world. However, this was not only to let him understand the ancestors' world, but also to tell him a direction that a world could develop in. Su Yun wholeheartedly immersed himself in it. He tried to make his own small world walk in this direction, trying to establish an order in his heart in his own small world, but all of this required him to have a certain degree of control over the small world. This control did not refer to urging the small world to give birth to the ancestors' chi, but it was a very detailed concept. Every line on the stone tablet was incomparably mysterious, and the content of each line was more profound than the previous. The first few lines were just what people who had just entered the ancestor realm had to do, and the later lines were what the ancestor realm had to do when they were heading towards the peak. As for the realm above the ancestor realm, there was no explanation, but the rich content was enough for anyone to completely grasp the ancestor realm. No wonder those powerful ancestors wanted to fight for this stone tablet. With this stone tablet, advancing to a stronger realm was definitely not a dream. But when Su Yun looked down, there were 4 sides to the stone tablet, and each side had close to 10,000 lines of content. Just comprehending a few lines of content would take a lot of time, and it was impossible for him to finish reading it all. Furthermore, there was no such thing as memorizing the content if he entered the small world on the stone tablet. Just relying on memory was not enough to comprehend it. Outside, Su Qing had already started to fight with Yong Yi and Intion. In the end, there were 2 ancestors, and with the addition of Intion, the incomparably powerful ancestor, Su Qing had fallen into a passive state. She could only defend and was unable to retaliate, and the ancestor's power in her body was quickly being consumed. If you're still not willing to give up resisting, I can only choose to kill you. There's not much time left. Are you still stubborn? And Tian stared at Su Qing coldly. His voice was like thunder as he shouted, "You are my enemy. If I let you obtain the stone tablet, we will definitely die. Since that's the case, why don't I stop you?" Su Qing said with a heroic look, "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." And Tian was enraged. With a flip of his hands, a strange rainbow-colored ball appeared in his palms. He carefully held the rainbow-colored ball with both hands and stared coldly at Su Qing. "That ball, what kind of great killing weapon was it? Foolish person, this is my master's small world. You will be sealed inside by me. Become a part of this small world." With that said, and Tian threw the rainbow-colored ball towards Su Qing. The ball continued to spin and grow bigger, and at the same time, all the space around it was sucked into the ball, as though the entire world was being sucked in. Su Qing's face was ugly. She stared at the ball and urged her strength to resist, but her ancestor's power was actually being swallowed by the ball. It had to be known that it was a small world, the ancestor's world. Just relying on the ancestor's power, how could it be destroyed? Was she really going to lose here? Su Qing's face was pale white. She turned to look at the stone tablet and the pillar of light and the figure beside it. She took a deep breath, and a determined look surfaced in her eyes. "I advise you to quickly stop." Su Qing took a deep breath and said coldly. Then she waved her hand, and a figure appeared in front of her. Seeing that, and Tian's face changed. Xianru. At that moment, Lung Xianru was completely under Su Qing's control and was like a puppet. "If you don't want her to die, quickly keep this small world, or else she will definitely die with me," Su Qing said coldly. And Tian was a powerful person and would not hesitate over anyone's life, but he was an exception to his disciple, and Su Qing could see that. So, just then, A ray of gray light suddenly shot over from afar, directly piercing through Yongyi. Yongye's entire body trembled, and before he could react, a person rushed towards him. Seeing that, Su Qing's eyes narrowed. She kept Lung Xianru and rushed towards Tian again. "Who is it?" And Tian roared. "You've forgotten me so quickly." A familiar voice floated over. It was Hao Tian. Chapter 1528. "Do you want to snatch the stone tablet too?" Dark Sky was furious and shouted loudly. "I'm not interested in the stone tablet. I'm only here for revenge." Hao Tian sneered, his gaze sinister, and launched a fatal attack towards Yongyi. Yongyi was already severely injured, and his energy consumption was huge. Facing Hao Tian's sudden sneak attack, he had no strength to resist. "Help me! Help me!" Yongyi roared, but Dark Sky was helpless. He was currently entangled by Su Qing'er, adding that Su Qing'er still had Lung Xinru in her hands. He was distracted. How could he save Yongyi? Yongyi knew that he could not fight against Hao Tian, so he clenched his teeth and turned to escape. "You think you can escape?" Hao Tian snorted and chased after him. With Hao Tian's appearance, the situation gradually turned around. At the stone tablet, Su Yun had already used the contents of the stone tablet to slightly improve his small world. The establishment of the Order of the Heart had caused the gradually decaying small world to undergo a transformation. But this transformation still needed time to evolve, and the effect would not be too great in a short period of time, but at least it could provide a portion of the ancestor's power for him, who was close to exhaustion. There was not much time left. He took a deep breath, looked at the sword sheath that was still in a stalemate with the stone tablet, and leaped over. The stone tablet was not very heavy, and the main reason why it could not be swallowed by the sword sheath was because of the power that covered the surface of the stone tablet. This power seemed to have sealed the position of the stone tablet, and if one's own strength could not shake this power, they would not be able to move the stone tablet, even if it was spatial energy. Su Yun frowned. He calculated the time. There were less than 6 hours left. If he did not think of a way to snatch the stone tablet, it would be too late. But could he really snatch it away? Could Dark Sky's space-time will really be refined? Refined? Su Yun's heart skipped a beat. Although it was said to be refined, in reality, it was only to destroy the power on the surface of the stone tablet. If that was the case, why not just use external force to break it? If ordinary people knew of Su Yun's thoughts, they would definitely scoff. The existence that set up this power was most likely a peak ancestor. How could a fake ancestor break this power? But Su Yun did not think so. He took the sword case and leaped into it, entering the world of swords. The current sword world made him a little shocked. When he was storing the sword sheath at Long Xianli's place, Su Yun had asked Hu Qianmei to transport a large number of spirit swords to repair the evil sword formation. But now, it seemed that the evil sword in the sword sheath could no longer be sealed by the sword formation alone. Su Yun raised his head to look at the sword world. In the sky, he could no longer see the sword discourse arena. The sky was extremely dark, as though night had descended, and the air was filled with a cold smell. Su Yun felt that something was wrong, and immediately flew towards the location of the evil sword. Previously, Qing'er had said that the main body of the evil sword had been restless recently, so Qingyu had returned to the sword sheath to stabilize the main body. What was going on? Su Yun did not understand, but when he got close to the evil sword, the air started to ripple with a dense evil sword qi. He wanted to go inside, but the deeper he went, the thicker the evil sword's power became. And when he was about 10,000 meters away from the evil sword, Su Yun finally stopped. The evil sword qi here was so thick that it was unimaginable. He could not take another step forward, and the terrifying evil sword qi in front of him was enough to tear apart the existence of the ancestor. As for the sword discourse arena that had disappeared, Su Yun finally saw them. They revolved around the gigantic body of the sword like satellites, and in all directions of the sword, there were millions of spirit swords arranged in a row, like stars all over the place, and between every spirit sword, there was a shallow imprint that connected them. In the center of these countless spirit swords and sword discourse arena floated a pitch-black longsword. On the longsword, There was a large blood-red word engraved. Dead. The death sword was indeed the core of the sword formation. These were all the spirit swords that Su Yun had ordered people to collect. Seeing that so many spirit swords were still unable to suppress the aura of the evil sword, Su Yun's eyes congealed. Su Yun, you're here. A weak voice suddenly came out from beside his ear. Su Yun's entire body trembled. He suddenly turned, only to see Ling Qingyu dressed in white, but with an extremely pale face, standing in front of him. Her face was extremely haggard. Her eyes that should have been brimming with vigor were now dim, causing people to feel pity for her. Qingyu, what's wrong? Su Yun asked anxiously. I'm fine. I just stabilized the evil sword's body and consumed a lot of energy. I'll recover after resting for a while. Ling Qingyu said. What's going on with the evil sword now? Why is it that after using so many spirit swords to create the sword formation, its chi is still so terrifying? Su Yun did not think that things were as simple as Ling Qingyu said. If it was like that, then how could the terrifying chi that was enough to kill the ancestor be explained? Su Yun, you don't have to care about this. I will take care of it. Ling Qingyu hesitated for a moment, then said, At this point, are you still planning to bear all of this alone? He stared into Ling Qingyu's eyes and said seriously. Ling Qingyu bit her lips lightly, but did not say anything. Seeing that Ling Qingyu was still unwilling to speak, Su Yun took a deep breath and did not ask anymore. On the other hand, Ling Qingyu thought about changing the topic and asked, Su Yun, why are you here? Qingyu, have you heard of the ancient stone tablet? Su Yun asked. Ancient stone tablet? Ling Qingyu thought for a moment, then shook her head. You told me before that I cannot let existences with extremely strong energy get close to the evil sword, for example, the ancestor back then, but I plan to snatch a stone tablet. I do not know if the energy it contains will cause a reaction to the evil sword. Hearing that, Ling Qingyu gently waved her hand, and the surrounding space immediately split open, revealing the scene outside. Is it this stone tablet? She sized up the ancient stone tablet outside and asked softly. Yes. Su Yun nodded. Ling Qingyu looked at it for a moment, then said, The energy contained on its surface is extremely large. This energy will make the evil sword even more restless. But it is also because of this energy you are unable to take this stone tablet away, because this energy is suppressing the stone tablet. But if you can really take this stone tablet away, it means that you have broken this energy, so in theory, you should be able to put it into the sword sheath. Who is the owner of this power? Can the ancestor existences break it? Only those at the peak of the ancestor realm can do it. Peak? Yes. And it is not an ordinary peak. It is an expert who has experienced 1,000,000 years of cultivation after stepping into the peak of the ancestor realm. Ling Qingyu said seriously. These words completely confused Su Yun. What do you mean? There is actually no realm above the ancestor realm. Of course, in my memories, there has never been an existence that surpasses the ancestor realm. Because once you reach the ancestor realm, you already have the power to destroy 10,000 worlds. This is already a realm that goes against fate, and the realm above should be the realm that goes against the heavens and changes your fate. But this kind of existence can already be called the creator, but to reach this realm, it is almost impossible unless you are able to experience a mighty realm that concerns the 10,000 worlds and use this as an opportunity to advance. In the history of the 10,000 worlds, there should be around 10 ancestor existences, but the ancestor peak occupies more than half. Why? Because they are unable to explore the unknown and powerful realm. They have been stuck at the peak for millions or even millions of years. It is not that they did not work hard, but they did not have the opportunity. Hearing that, Su Yun was stunned and asked, Will the ancestor die? Of course they will. And once the ancestor dies, even if his body dies, his soul will not be left behind. But the majority of the ancestors died while exploring the higher realms. They were unable to find the right direction, and their minds were confused, their bodies collapsed, and they died miserably. Ling Qingyu casually waved her hand and extracted a strong gray chi from the air and sealed it inside a spirit sword and handed it over to Su Yun. Use this to break the seal on the stone tablet. I saw that there are many small worlds carved on the stone tablet. I can use the civilization of these small worlds to refine the spirit's swords into evil sword formation. Maybe it will help the seal. You can also use the stone tablet to smoothly step into the ancestor realm. Hearing that, Su Yun nodded. Leaving the sword sheath, Su Yun rushed towards the stone tablet. The fight between the ancestors outside was still intense, but even though Su Yun could see it, he could not interfere. As matters stood, he could only think of a way to take the stone tablet away. There were still 2 hours left. It should be enough. Su Yun kept the Heaven Destroyer sword and the Heavenly Will sword, took the spirit sword that Ling Qingyu gave him, and rushed towards the stone tablet. The spirit sword was filled with evil sword chi. Although the spirit sword itself was extremely weak, the evil sword chi inside was extremely ruthless and terrifying. Su Yun activated all of the ancestors' power in his body and poured it into the spirit sword, and fiercely slashed at the stone tablet. Boom! A shocking explosion came out from the pillar of light. The remnant power spread out in all directions, causing Su Yun to be blasted away. The terrifying, fierce sword chi was like a roaring beast spreading out in all directions. Outside, and Tian, who was fighting, sensed the abnormality inside the pillar of light. His face was overwhelmed with shock, and he immediately rushed inside. "Stop!" Su Qinger bellowed and rushed over. "Bastard!" Dark Sky was forced back once again. He had already guessed that Su Yun was not comprehending the stone tablet, but was like him, trying to snatch the stone tablet. If the stone tablet was snatched away, forget about Su Yun, this fake ancestor. Being able to quickly enter the ancestor realm, Su Qinger would also step into the peak of the ancestor realm. At that time, Dark Sky's opponent would be extremely strong. I can't let him take the stone tablet. Dark Sky clenched his teeth. He suddenly took out the time-space wheel, closed his eyes, and quickly chanted. The time-space wheel immediately released a strange time and space power. This power was like a 10,000 zhang long divine dragon, flying towards the light pillar and coiling around it. In that moment, time flew past the light pillar. Originally, there were still 2 hours left, but when Su Yun regained his senses, he realized that the stone tablet was slowly descending, and a light pillar around him had become dim. The stone tablet was about to be forcefully sent into the seal. Chapter 1529. Bang! An intense explosion sounded out outside the ninth heaven. The figures of immortals were everywhere. The terrifying techniques were like rain, smashing towards the ninth heaven. The defenses of the ninth heaven were extremely loose. The defenses set up were destroyed one by the great demons. Wei Ming and Qin Xianlong led the elites of the encampment, and with the great demon opening the way, they charged straight into the ninth heaven. How's the elimination of the ninth heaven's trap? Su Luluo looked at the fallen first heaven and asked the person beside him. The first heaven's restriction has been dealt with, and the majority of the troops are currently heading towards the second heaven. The Eternal God Council does not have the power to stop us for the time being. The person beside him reported, "Kill your way up to the ninth heaven in one go. Don't let anyone from the Eternal God Council off. This time, we will exterminate them." Su Luluo said coldly, "Yes, sir." For the Great Stone Tablet Tournament, Dark Sky had sent a large number of ascended gods and Lung Shinru to the ancient ruins. On the surface, it looked like he wanted to monopolize the spots for the Great Stone Tablet Tournament, but in reality, it was just Dark Sky's intention to control the strength of the Great Stone Tablet Tournament, including the 4 heavenly kings. Of course, Dark Sky truly wanted to train Lung Shinru, but who would have thought that Su Yun would give the order to attack the ancient Heaven Gods Council at the last minute? Dark Sky also had the existence of the life-seeking divine art in his hands, but he did not expect Su Yun to have the guts to kill his way up to the ninth heaven. In the ninth heaven, there were not many existences at the peak of the God-sealing realm. The great demons were enough to deal with, and there were no more pseudo-ancestor enchantments, but there were countless of them. Logically speaking, these enchantments should be enough to delay Su Yun's army, but with the Realm Master leading the way, the method to break through the enchantments had already been exposed. However, When the army rushed to the ninth heaven like a hot knife through butter, the ninth heaven's enchantment finally made it difficult for the army to take even half a step forward. Sululuo led the elites towards the ninth heaven. Including the great demon, no one could do anything. The extremely weak realm master sat on the ground. At the moment, she was drenched in sweat, and beside her was Hu Qianmei, who was guarding her. The current her could no longer activate the life-seeking technique. The ninth barrier was set up by Dark Sky with his blood essence, and it already has a wisp of Fate's aura. Even at my peak, I can't break it, she said, panting. It's enough, Su Luluo said gently. How is that possible? Leave the rest to us. Su Luluo said softly, then called his subordinates to bring Realm Master down to recuperate. The Realm Lord has already done her best. Next, it would depend on her methods. Far away in the ancient ruins, and Tian sensed at the moment his enchantment barrier was attacked, but he was powerless, and while he was supporting the space-time wheel with all his might, he also had to defend against Su Qing-er's attack. Yongyi couldn't hold on any longer. After Hao Tian left, he had been waiting to see the result of the battle. No one knew whether he came here for the stone tablet or not, but one thing was certain. He came here to kill Yongyi. Boom! A series of explosions occurred in the air, and a miserable figure flew out, falling straight to the back. Countless clouds were shattered, leaving behind a long trail in the air. Hao Tian transformed into a myriad of qi waves. Like a wave, they drowned Yongyi, preventing him from escaping, and then rushed over, punching towards Yongyi. The ancestor's fist, a full-powered punch, was enough to destroy a world. The skin and flesh on Yongye's body cracked. He clenched his teeth, extended his palm, and firmly blocked Ancestor Hao's fist. The terrifying progenitor's power frantically bombarded Yongyi through the fist. Yongye's body constantly trembled, and the small world in his body was like a boat thrown into a storm. It swayed incessantly, as though it would collapse at any moment. Let me go, Yongyi screamed weakly. At this time, there was no longer any arrogance or pride in his eyes, only fear and despair. Previously, during the Great Stone Monument competition, he was so arrogant, so noble and arrogant. Compared to now, he was like a completely different person. When you harmed me, did you ever think of letting me go? Hao Tian said coldly. Hao Tian, we've known each other for so many years. Don't you care about anything at all? Yongyi begged. We've already come to this. What else is there to talk about? Yongyi, you must die today. Hao Tian said with a ferocious look, pressing his fist down again. Yongye's body sank a little, his skin and flesh being torn apart by Hao Tian's terrifying ancestral power. The cracks grew larger and larger, as if one could see the bones inside through his torn flesh. Arg! Yongyi let out a blood-curdling scream as the space around him began to wither and decay. This was a sign that the minor world inside his body was beginning to collapse, and the withering and decaying power was spreading at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, it had filled the entire immortal world. Any immortals, spirit beasts, or immortal beasts that came into contact with this aura all fell to the ground, and all the power in their bodies was instantly dispersed. The barriers and formations that protected the mountain gates also disappeared without a trace after coming into contact with it. Once the ancestral power fell, it would cause a terrifying impact on the realm where it fell. The impact would destroy the lives of countless weak beings, causing the power of the strong to disappear in a short period of time, and the order would be completely broken. The fall of the ancestral power symbolized destruction and catastrophe. It was not that Hao Tian did not know the consequences, but he did not care. Yongyi had already shed all pretense of cordiality with him, and the two of them were already mortal enemies. If he did not kill him today, Yongyi would not let him off in the future. The terrifying ancestral power pressed down once again. Without any hesitation, Yongyi let out a miserable cry. His voice seemed to be able to spread throughout the immortal realm. His body was being pressured by Hao Tian bit by bit, deforming bit by bit, and the small world in his body had already shattered, just like his body. He could no longer withstand the terrifying attack, and it was as if he had fallen into the mouth of a poisonous snake, being eaten away bit by bit. "It's over." Hao Tian's eyes revealed a sinister look, and his fist descended. Boom! A gigantic blood lotus bloomed in the vast sky. The world wailed, the calamity storm blew through the entire immortal realm, and an ancestor had finally fallen. But at that moment, Su Qing and Dark Sky did not care. Not only them, even Su Yun, who was in the Pillar of Light, did not care about Yongye's life. Looking at the continuously sinking stone tablet, Su Yun clenched his teeth, endured the numbness in his arm, and rushed towards the stone tablet again. Bang! The spirit sword struck the stone tablet, the ominous chi on the blade frantically tearing apart the powerful energy on the surface of the stone tablet. Crack! Finally, the stone tablet released a light sound. The power on the stone tablet was torn apart by the ominous sword, and even the spirit sword was destroyed. Seeing that, Su Yun was overjoyed. Taking advantage of the fact that the stone tablet had not sunk into the seal, he immediately grabbed the sword sheath and covered the stone tablet. Crash! The stone tablet completely disappeared, and the moment it disappeared, the seven-colored pillar of light also dissipated, and everything returned to normal. The stone tablet was completely taken, and all the experts felt the strange change. No! Seeing that, Dark Sky was enraged and rushed towards Su Yun. Hand over the ancient stone tablet. He punched out. The tip of his fist seemed to want to tear the entire ancient ruins apart. Humph! A beautiful figure appeared in front of Su Yun, and with a wave of her hand, thousands of images appeared, bombarding Dark Sky, forcing him to retreat. Even the space-time will could not stop Su Yun from taking the stone tablet. Dark Sky stared at the sword sheath in Su Yun's hands and said sinisterly, "Is that the sword sheath that seals the ominous sword?" "Qinger, can you still hold on?" Su Yun asked. "Don't worry. He won't be able to defeat me in a short period of time." Su Qing said softly. "That's good. Delay him first." Su Yun said at the moment Su Luluo and the rest should be attacking the ninth heaven. He had to stop Dark Sky from leaving. If not, Luluo and the rest would be in danger. But just at that moment, a figure suddenly scuttled over and directly landed in between Dark Sky and Su Qing. Hao Yin? Su Qing's face changed. Su Yun's eyes also congealed. He never thought that Hao Yin was also an ancestor. Now that he had killed Yongyi, he had probably absorbed a lot of power from Yongyi. The current Hao Yin strength was not something an ordinary ancestor could compare to. If he were to join in, then the situation would not be simple. At least Su Qing would not be able to control it. The situation had become delicate. If one wanted to see which side the situation was leaning towards, they would need to see which side Hao Yin would stand on. Hao Yin looked at Su Yun, then looked at Dark Sky. He suddenly laughed and said, "Su Yun, did you keep the stone tablet?" "Yes," Su Yun said indifferently. "All right then, I won't take your stone tablet. Since everyone can see it together, I'll help you kill Dark Sky. And when the time comes, you can lend me the stone tablet. How about it?" Hao Yin laughed again. Hearing that, Su Yun was startled, but then he thought about it. Hao Yin was right. He and Su Yun did not have any enmity, and rather than falling out, it was better to be friends, since the stone tablet was already in Su Yun's hands. Su Yun could show it to whoever he wanted. It would not affect him. But Dark Sky could not. He and Su Yun were already mortal enemies. Sure, Su Yun nodded. Su Yun had no other choice. If he rejected, it would force Hao Yin towards Dark Sky. All right. Hao Yin turned and stared at Dark Sky, then said softly, "This person is powerful, but his heart is not in the right place, and he's extremely ambitious. If we do not kill him today, he will be a threat to both you and me kill." With that, Hao Yin made his move. Seeing that, Su Qing immediately rushed forward. How could Dark Sky dare to hesitate? Facing two ancestors, he had no chance of winning. He immediately turned and escaped into the void, flying far away. Very quickly, the three ancestors disappeared into the horizon, and the ancient ruins that was enveloped by the dense, destructive Qi finally regained its peace. There was no true champion in this great stone tablet competition. It should be said that the competition was not over yet. It had just leveled up. The Great Stone Tablet competition had risen to the level of a primogeniture. It was still unknown who would emerge victorious. The ancestors ran with all their might. Su Yun could not catch up, he thought for a long time, then turned and flew. His target was the ninth heaven. Chapter 1530. Su Yun was unable to interfere in the battle of the ancestors. Furthermore, he already had the stone tablet, and stepping into the ancestor realm was only a matter of time. If Hao Yin stood on his side and joined hands with Su Qing'er, dealing with dark sky should not be a problem. As such, the Eternal God Council was no longer a threat. What he needed to do now was to comprehend the stone tablet. When Su Yun used up what little ancestor power he had left to rush to the ninth heaven, the encampment's army was already gathered outside the ninth heaven. The enchantment of the ninth heaven could no longer be broken by relying on the realm master's fortune-telling technique, but at the crucial moment, Xiao Chua appeared. It turned out that after leaving the Immortal Court, she had brought a group of Immortal Court elites to sneak into the Eternal God Council. With her astute mind, she was like a fish in water in the Eternal God Council, and had obtained a position in the fifth heaven. However, to break the enchantment of the dark sky, even she, who was extremely familiar with the Eternal God Council, was unable to break it immediately. Seeing that Su Yun had returned safely, everyone was extremely excited. Su Luluo, Hu Qianmei, Realm Master, Sword Ancestor, Fire Holy Devil, Octagon Aniseed, Wei Ming, Qin Qianlong, Kai Tian, and so on. In this attack, Su Luluo had almost everyone participate. After all, it was a direct attack on the headquarters of the Eternal God Council. Su Yun had issued such an urgent order. Su Luluo even suspected that Su Yun was inside the Eternal God Council and was in danger, so he did not dare to hold back. "Big brother, did you win a large competition?" Su Luluo asked. "I'm afraid there must have been a lot of variables in the large competition." Just then, Xiao Chua walked over with his forehead covered in sweat. Su Yun smiled and walked over. "Xiao Chua, long time no see. How are you?" "Not bad." Xiao Chua laughed, then looked at Su Yun and said, "What's the result of the large competition?" Back then, it was Xiao Chua who told Su Luluo to participate in the stone monument competition. Dark Sky intends to use the power of the ancient God Council to suppress the competition and refine the stone tablet. However, the host of the competition, Yong Yi, also wants to obtain the right to use the stone tablet. In addition to Yong Ye's enemy, Hao Tian, 3 ancestors have appeared in the ancient ruins. Other than that, Qing'er has also completed her reincarnation and helped me obtain the stone tablet. The Great Stone Tablet competition has evolved into a battle of ancestors. Su Yun roughly explained the matter of the large competition. When he said that, everyone was shocked. Battle of the primogenitors? How many years has it been since something like this happened? No wonder the entire immortal world was struck by a calamity. This is unbelievable. What about Qing'er? Hu Qianmei walked over and asked anxiously. Amongst these people, her relationship with Qing'er was the best. After all, she and Qing'er both came from the Sky Martial Continent. Qing'er went to chase after Dark Sky. I am unable to interfere in the battle between the ancestors. Adding that the ominous sword and the stone tablet are with me, I will temporarily return. Dark Sky cannot do anything to Qing'er. While Qing'er is restraining Dark Sky, we must immediately take down the ancient God Council and strengthen our defense. I will take the opportunity to step into the ancestor realm with the help of the stone tablet, so Dark Sky cannot do anything to us. Su Yun said with a serious face. Don't worry, it is only a matter of time before the 9th layer of defensive enchantment is broken. Now that the 4 heavenly kings have been killed, the elites of the ancient God Council are either dead or have fled. It is difficult for them to make a difference. Originally, the majority of the people in the ancient God Council were forcefully subdued by Dark Sky, but after the defeat of this force, the immortals have all fled without any intention of resisting. Even if Dark Sky returns, I am afraid it will be difficult for him to regroup. Sword Ancestor said. Su Yun nodded and looked at Sword Ancestor. After thinking for a while, he walked over. Ancestor, there's one more thing I need to ask for your opinion. What is it? Sword Ancestor asked. Su Yun brought Sword Ancestor away from the chaotic battlefield and temporarily retreated to the area controlled by Su Yun Jun. He took out the sword sheath and entered the sword world with Sword Ancestor. Upon entering the world, Sword Ancestor's face changed. Do you feel it? This terrifying, ominous sword chi. Su Yun asked. How could this be? Could it be that the seal can no longer suppress the ominous sword chi? Sword Ancestor asked with a pale face. I don't know, but Qingyu told me that she can control it. After all, I don't know much about the sealing formation, but at this moment, the sword world is completely filled with the ominous sword chi. I'm worried that Qingyu didn't tell me the truth. Su Yun said. What he was worried about now was not dark sky, but the ominous sword. Sword Ancestor felt the ominous sword chi, and not long after, his breathing became hurried, his face turned pale, and his entire body trembled. Seeing this, Su Yun immediately brought Sword Ancestor out of the sword sheath. After all, Sword Ancestor's cultivation was limited, and he had used up a lot of energy when attacking the Eternal Heaven God's assembly. Facing the terrifying, ominous sword chi, he was naturally uncomfortable. After leaving the sword sheath, he meditated and rested for a moment, then raised his head and said to Su Yun, Su Yun, you should ask the ominous sword spear about this matter. The ominous sword is related to the safety of all the living beings in the myriad realms. If it breaks out of the sword sheath, it will definitely trigger an apocalyptic calamity. No matter what, we cannot let the ominous sword escape the restraints of the sword sheath. Everything depends on you. Sword Ancestor's voice was hoarse and solemn. When he said that, Su Yun finally understood. At this time, the person who shouldered the responsibility of the ominous sword was no longer Sword Ancestor, but him. Whether it was protecting the people around him or the people of the myriad realms, it no longer mattered. He gently closed his eyes, his mind thinking about Ling Qingyu's pale white face. He exhaled and jumped back into the sword sheath. After entering the sword sheath, he flew towards the ominous sword. This time, the ominous sword chi in the sword sheath's world was even denser and more ruthless than before. The innermost area of the sword formation had formed an invisible wall, making it difficult to advance even half an inch, and the ancient stone tablet that was sent here was actually not sent by Ling Qingyu to the ominous sword, but was thrown outside. Su Yun flew to the front of the stone tablet and searched around, but did not see any trace of Ling Qingyu. Qingyu, he shouted, but there was silence. He shouted dozens of times, but there was no one here. Ling Qingyu was nowhere to be seen. Could it be that Qingyu had returned to her original body to sleep? He was a little apprehensive, but the current him was powerless against the ominous sword. Taking a deep breath, he sat down cross-legged, faced the stone tablet, and comprehended the contents on it. Reaching the Ancestor realm as soon as possible was the best choice. Su Yun was in closed-door cultivation. Su Luluo and Su Qing'er were enough to handle the rest of the matters. With the help of Xiao Chua and the great demons, 10 days later, the seal on the ninth heaven was finally removed, and the group of people completely occupied the ninth heaven. In order to prevent dark sky from returning, Su Luluo quickly ordered people to control the defense of the ninth heaven again and gathered their strength together, even though they had almost no chance of winning in a fight with the ancestors. But a month later, Su Qing'er and Hao Tian returned. From the fact that the immortal world did not experience any calamity during this period of time, it could be determined that they did not succeed in killing Dark Sky. Upon knowing that the two ancestors had arrived, not to mention the ordinary immortals in the encampment, even the great demons were extremely excited. To them, the ancestors were legendary figures that they had only heard of. They never thought that they would actually be able to see them today. Some people begged Su Luluo to ask the ancestor to explain. Naturally, Su Luluo would not go against the wishes of the majority, but the current situation was still very complicated. Dark Sky was still alive, and the two ancestors had consumed a lot of energy, so they naturally had to wait a little longer. Where's young master? Su Qing'er chatted with everyone for a while, then met with Shangwan Meiyang alone, and then found Su Luluo to ask. I heard from Lord Sword Ancestor that Big Brother has entered the sword sheath. I'm afraid that he is currently comprehending the contents of the stone tablet and will not be able to come out for a while. Su Luluo said, This brat has the realm of a pseudo-ancestor. With the contents of the stone tablet, it won't be difficult for him to break through to the ancestor realm. Arrange a place for me. I have benefited a lot from fighting with the ancestor. I need to go into closed-door cultivation. When Su Yun comes out, inform me. He promised to lend me the stone tablet to comprehend. Hao Tian laughed. Su Luluo nodded his head. Naturally, he would not be stingy. He immediately gave one of the 9 heavens to Hao Tian and arranged for 10 immortals to serve him. Hao Tian was satisfied with the treatment, so he went into closed-door cultivation. The encampment also needed to be organized, so Su Luluo let Wei Ming lead a group of elites to guard the encampment. The 9th Heaven's defenses were stronger than the encampment, so everyone temporarily stayed there. Of course, if they did not kill Dark Sky, they would never have a peaceful day. Realm Master was brought down by Hu Qianmei to recuperate. Su Qing'er continued to chat with Shangwan Meiyang. The 2 girls were originally master and disciple. Su Qing'er was extremely sentimental. Even if she completed her reincarnation, she would not forget Shangwan Meiyang's feelings for her back then. Long Xianli was released from Exquisite. She had cultivated her mind for so many years, and although she was surprised by the powerful immortals around her, she was only surprised and quickly got used to it. However, she was not interested in wandering around, and found a quiet place to continue cultivating her mind. After Xiao Chuo resolved the seal in the 9th heaven, she had originally planned to leave and cultivate, but Su Luluo hoped that she could stay and help. Although Xiao Chuo was not the strongest here, her experience and knowledge were extremely outstanding, and thinking that the Dark Sky had not been eliminated yet, Xiao Chuo agreed. Qin Xianlong, Kai Tian, Faceless, and the others were sent to the 1st heaven to cast their defenses, while Chi-Chi sent people to search for the whereabouts of the Dark Sky. The Nether Empress controlled the Nether Demon Realm, while the Imperial Nether Sword had already brought Mo Jihua back to the underworld to recuperate. He did not want to interfere too much in the matters of the immortal world. The other realms also needed to send people to investigate the whereabouts of the Dark Sky. From Su Qing'er and Hao Tian's conversation, they knew that the Dark Sky had used a powerful magic treasure that could randomly cross realms to escape. This kind of magic treasure would not leave a spatial trace, so it was impossible to know where he went. Chapter 1531. After the decline of the Divine Eagle race, the remaining people in the clan were all led by Yang Zi. Everyone wanted to return to the Eagle Mountain and revive the Divine Eagle race, but the Dark Sky was not dead yet, and they were worried, so they helped Su Yun search for the whereabouts of the Dark Sky. The Divine Eagle race was extremely fast, and no one in the immortal world could compare to them in terms of the Imperial Wind technique. Under Su Luluo's arrangements, the largest immortal world investigation was carried out by them. But just as Yang Zi was preparing to search for the whereabouts of the Dark Sky, Xiao Chuo requested to go with him. She wanted to go somewhere in the immortal world to visit an old friend, and when Su Luluo asked who it was, she said that she could not reveal it. Su Luluo did not pursue the matter and allowed him to do as he pleased. The following matters were rather monotonous. Su Luluo managed the matters of the 9 heavens and the encampment, while Su Yun was comprehending the contents of the stone tablet. But for some reason, the news of Su Yun seizing the stone tablet spread out and spread throughout the myriad realms. But to Su Luluo and the rest, it did not have much of an impact. So what if the people of the myriad realms knew? Behind Su Yun stood 2 ancestors. Even if hundreds or thousands of peak of the God Realm cultivators came, they would still not be a match for Su Yun's side. With the support of the ancestor and obtaining the stone tablet, the power that Su Yun grasped was already invincible in the myriad realms, and no one in the immortal world dared to disobey him. Su Luluo was also a flexible person. After the matter of the ancient ruins fermented, Su Yun's influence completely spread out and immediately requested for the great immortal sects to come and pay tribute, and also requested for them to cooperate and search for the whereabouts of the Dark Sky. After activating so many forces to search for him, the dark sky should not be able to hide. However, after waiting for a few more months, there was still no news of him, and even the divine eagle race that was sent out could not find any clues. No one would believe that the dark sky would give up just like that. It was probably because the ancestors' power was too strong, and ordinary immortals were unable to find any traces of him. Huayramuyu had originally stayed at the encampment, but because the Battle of the Nine Heavens was most likely to be to save Su Yun, she ignored Su Yula's objections and came over as well. But after Su Yun returned safely, he went into closed-door cultivation to comprehend the stone tablets, and in the end, she was not able to meet him. She stood outside the training grounds where the limitless sword sheath was placed and did not leave. Su Yun's closed-door cultivation lasted for a few years. To immortals, these few years were not long, but because of the primordial ruins, the entire structure of the myriad realms was completely broken. The fall of the eternal god assembly like a meteor made people sigh endlessly, and the rise of Su Yun like a giant also caught countless people off guard. Under the leadership of Su Qing and Hao Yin, Su Yun's power had already become the ruler of the myriad realms. However, Su Yun did not plan to be the master of the myriad realms. Su Luluo also understood his intentions. Although his power was the strongest in the myriad realms, Su Luluo did not imitate the eternal god assembly and make the other immortal sects submit to him. He was not a person who liked power. Everything seemed so calm, but the calmer it was, the more deadly the danger hidden behind it was. Crash! A burst of light flashed past, and then a figure appeared in front of the sword sheath. Su Yun held his hands behind his back and looked forward. He muttered to himself for a moment, then took the sword sheath and walked out of the cultivation ground. Muyu. He looked at the seemingly bored woman at the door, but in reality, she had a stomach full of words. When the woman heard his shout, she turned her head slightly and smiled at him. Have you come out of seclusion? Have you broken through? Whether I break through or not is no longer important. Su Yun shook his head. Huayramuyu naturally did not understand, and looked at Su Yun strangely. What do you mean? Su Yun laughed bitterly, but did not say anything. Huayramuyu did not ask any further. Maybe she knew that even if Su Yun explained, she would not understand. After all, the two of them were not people from the same world. After all, this place is too boring. I came here to bid farewell to you. Now that the eternal heavenly God's council has been conquered by you, Beiyang should be safe. I plan to return to Beiyang, she said with a relaxed smile. But in Su Yun's eyes, this smile was fake. He hesitated for a moment, then walked forward and looked at Huayramuyu seriously. Is that what you're saying? Don't you know how to read minds? You can see if my heart is thinking the same thing. She joked, but Su Yun agreed, all right. With that, he stared at Huayramuyu's eyes, as though he was about to cast a spell. Seeing that, Huayramuyu retreated in fear, but just as she was about to retreat, she was pulled back by a big hand. Why are you retreating? What are you afraid of? I was just joking. You can't really be planning to use mind reading on me, right? She said with lingering fear. What are you afraid of me seeing? Su Yun asked with a smile. Huayramuyu was speechless. Could it be that you have some unspeakable secret in your heart? Everyone has a good thing in their heart. She rolled her eyes at Su Yun, then kept her joking attitude and said, all right, Su Yun, it's getting late. You just came out of seclusion. You should have a lot of things to take care of. I won't disturb you anymore. With that, she was about to leave, but just as she raised her foot, her hand was pulled back again. She was startled and turned to look at Su Yun strangely. You, stay, Su Yun said slowly. Huayramuyu was startled for a long time. She looked at him in a daze, then forced herself to calm down. She lowered her head and asked, why? Because I forbid you to leave. Su Yun smiled. An ancestor does not allow you to leave, and even force you to stay by his side. You shouldn't have any leeway to resist, right? When did you become someone who likes to bully others? Huayramuyu suddenly cried, but she was crying with a smile. She wanted to retreat, but was grabbed tightly by the man. Muyu, do you really think that I don't know anything? Do you really think that your silent waiting has been ignored by me? No, actually, I know better than anyone, but it is also because I understand that I can't face this feeling from the first time I met you in Beiyang. How many years has it been? But I've always been in danger, in turmoil. If I got close to you at that time, I would only bring you into endless killing and danger. So I never said it, but now that everything is over, why can't I face this feeling again? Muyu, I like you. Stay, he said, no longer hiding anything, nor did he find any excuses. This simple sentence was like a sharp sword, shattering the last line of defense in Huairo Muyu's heart. Su Yun was not an idiot, and the appearance of an idiot that he gave people was just a disguise. Her tears flowed even more, but her smile became even more brilliant. Enough, I understand. She lowered her head, not daring to look at Su Yun again, but at this moment, she suddenly realized that all the waiting was worth it. At least, this man was willing to reveal his feelings to her, and was willing to accept her. TSK, I'm so touched. Big brother, congratulations, another girl has thrown herself into your arms. Just then, a strange voice came out from the side. Just from a voice, Su Yun knew who it was. Mei, it's been hard on you. Su Yun laughed bitterly. It's good that you know it's been hard on me, that realm master. Her body is as weak as cotton. I'm afraid that if I use a little more strength, I'll crush her to death. But I'm so tired, if not for Luluo using good medicine and treasures. I'm afraid she wouldn't have lived until now. Why aren't you going to take a look at her? Hu Qianmei rolled her eyes at him and said, Did Realm Master use the fortune-telling technique again? Su Yun asked. Yeah, I can't persuade her at all. Hu Qianmei sighed, then looked at Su Yun strangely. Although she has the name of husband and wife with you on the surface, but from what I see, she doesn't seem to be limited to that. If not for the Realm Master, Su Yun might have been defeated a long time ago. Although her cultivation was not high, her fortune-telling technique made up for the fatal flaw of not having a fortune-telling master in Su Yun's team. With the fortune-telling technique, it meant that he had the initiative, and in everything he could be a step faster than others and not fall into a passive state. I'll go see her. With that said, Su Yun walked towards the Realm Master. The current state of the Realm Master was almost equivalent to being reborn. She was still lying on the bed. The array formation set up on the bed was activated, continuously providing her with life force. On the table beside the bed, there were many bottles and jars. All of them were rare pills, but they were not top-grade pills, and the effects of the pills were not very strong. If the effects of the pills were too strong, the Realm Master would not be able to absorb them, and it would cause even more harm to her body. Seeing this scene, Su Yun felt as if his heart had been ruthlessly stabbed. He quickly walked in, and the sleeping Realm Master slowly opened her eyes and looked at Su Yun. She did not say anything. She looked at Su Yun for a moment, and then her pink lips slightly raised, revealing a pale smile. Su Yun did not say anything. He walked to the side of the bed, looked at the delicate person on the bed, extended his hand and pressed it on her chest, then closed his eyes, activating the grand and brand new small world in his body. A dense life force flowed through Su Yun's palm and poured into the Realm Master's body. This life force was extremely dense, but it was extremely gentle. They carefully entered her body and nourished everything in her body. Gradually, traces of red surfaced on the Realm Master's pale, white face, and her dull eyes regained their luster. You don't have to do so much for me. Her weak voice rang out. Then why did you do so much for me? The question followed. She didn't say anything else, quietly enjoying this vigorous life force. The room was filled with a mysterious power. At the same time, Hao Ian, who knew that Su Yun had come out of seclusion, came out of seclusion at almost the same time. He anxiously rushed towards the Realm Master. He urgently needed the stone tablet to cultivate, and when Su Yun came out, he was naturally impatient, while Sword Ancestor, Octagon Aniseed, and the others also rushed over. The current Su Yun was already the core of the entire Immortal Realm. Chapter 1532. The Realm Master's body was caused by the backlash from the activation of the fortune-telling art. Fortunately, Su Yun had the power of the Ancestor and was able to reverse it a little. If it was someone from the God-sealing realm, they would most likely be helpless. 2 hours later, The realm master fell asleep peacefully. Su Yun retracted his hand and said to Hu Qianmei, later, get Luluo to arrange for a few maids to take good care of her. During this period of time, I will come to treat her every day, and there should be obvious results in a month. All right, Hu Qianmei nodded. Su Yun walked out of the house. Outside, many people were waiting, and when they saw Su Yun walking out, they swarmed over. The aura is undetectable. It looks ordinary, but in reality, it is unfathomable and profound. Demon Lord, have you broken through? A great demon sized Su Yun up and asked seriously. Yes. Su Yun nodded casually, but this casual action made countless people even more excited. Ancestor, another progenitor. In other words, there were 3 progenitors gathered in this small 9th heaven. This was simply unbelievable. Su Qinger also dared to come over, but the one who was the most anxious was naturally Hao Yin. Su Yun, have you broken through? Congratulations. Speaking of which, where's the stone tablet now? Hao Yin asked anxiously. Su Yun smiled. He was not stingy. He took out the stone tablet from the sword sheath, and the gigantic stone tablet landed in the middle of the crowd. This stone tablet is a treasure left behind for us by our ancestors. I can take it out for everyone to comprehend. What realm you can reach will depend on everyone's good fortune, Su Yun said. With that said, the entire audience was in an uproar, regardless of whether it was the immortals or the devil cultivator. They were all extremely excited. The ancient stone tablet was something that they did not even dare to dream of. But today, Su Yun had generously taken it out for people to comprehend. What kind of extravagance, what kind of breadth of mind was this? Thank you, my lord. Everyone cried out in excitement. There are also many ambitious people in the immortal world who desire this object. This object should be open to the public, but it is strictly forbidden for anyone to look at this tablet. If they obtain power, it will only harm the myriad realms. Su Yun announced again. Everyone naturally agreed. No one wished for those sinister people to obtain terrifying power. Although the stone tablet was here, how many of them could enter the primogenital level? After all, those who could comprehend the steels were usually geniuses at the peak of the ascended god realm. Ordinary immortals probably wouldn't be able to comprehend it. Hao Yin did not stand on ceremony. He sat down cross-legged and stared at the contents on the stone tablet. Then he fell into deep thought. Su Yun turned and left. The god realm existences immediately sat down cross-legged, greedily absorbing everything on the stone tablet, and this news quickly spread throughout the entire immortal world. Su Yun was not stingy with the stone tablet. He could open it to the public, but his goal was not just to benefit the people of the immortal world, but to use the stone tablet to increase the overall strength of the people of the myriad realms. If the evil sword was truly out of control, he hoped that those powerful people would be able to stand up and stop the evil sword from destroying the world. Of course, not everyone could sneak into this place to comprehend the stone tablet. Su Yun passed down the order that everyone who came to comprehend the stone tablet had to have their identities checked to prevent Intion and the rest from sneaking in. Su Yun started to chat with everyone. Now that the primogenitor was in charge, Su Yun was undoubtedly the strongest, but the stone tablet could only guide the immortals to the primogenitor realm, and any further would be extremely difficult. But not long after, an unexpected piece of news entered Su Yun's ears. The stone tablet that was being looked at by everyone had cracked. Su Yun immediately brought Qing, and the rest to the place where the stone tablet was guarding. Seeing the hair-like cracks on the stone tablet, he frowned. Hao Yin also woke up from his meditation. He stared at the crack for a long time, then slowly said, "The seal of the stone tablet is not only to completely seal the stone tablet, but also to preserve it. Now that the stone tablet has left the seal, I'm afraid it won't exist for long." When everyone heard that, they were extremely shocked. Many of them were extremely disappointed, and even begged Su Yun to repair the stone tablet. But the ancestor was powerless against such a powerful stone tablet, and the stone tablet itself was not a small matter. Su Yun was helpless, so Hao Yin took the opportunity to speed up his comprehension of the contents of the stone tablet. Immediately seal off the news, and, at the same time, increase the defense. Just then, a voice suddenly sounded out, spreading in all directions. From now on, everyone is forbidden from entering the ninth heaven. Hearing the voice, Su Yin looked over. The one who spoke was Su Luluo. Su Luluo walked over with a few steps and said to Su Yun with a serious face, "If the news of the stone tablet splitting on its own spreads out, it will definitely attract the Dark Sky's attack. Big brother, we have to prepare as soon as possible." Su Yun naturally understood what Su Luluo meant. It was impossible for Tian to just watch as the stone tablet was destroyed. He still hoped to rely on the stone tablet to enter a higher and stronger realm. How could he not seize the opportunity? However, there were many people here, and many people had witnessed the phenomenon of the stone tablet splitting, so the news could not be completely sealed. Sooner or later, it would fall into Tian's ears. "Miss Su, what are you afraid of?" "Including our Lord Demon Lord, there are a total of 3 ancestors here. No matter how capable Tian is, can he contend against 3 ancestors? If he comes, he can get rid of him, to prevent future troubles." Octagon Aniseed walked over and said with a smile. Su Qingyer's sudden emergence as an ancestor was already unexpected, and with Hao Yan's help, Tian was no match for him at all. Adding that Su Yun had been promoted to ancestor, Su Yun's current power was already the strongest in the myriad realms, and no other power had an ancestor overseeing it, let alone 3. And Tian is not that easy to deal with. I don't know much about him, but if he were to give up just like that, how could he think of ruling over the myriad realms? This person is extremely ambitious. I'm afraid he still has other tricks up his sleeve. Su Yun said softly. He looked at the stone tablet. The cracks were not expanding very quickly, but even so, it would probably completely shatter within 3 months. Within 3 months, Tian would definitely make a move. He would take advantage of the time before the stone tablet shattered to fight again. As for what kind of methods he would use, Su Yin did not know. Su Qing'er also sat cross-legged in front of the stone tablet and started to comprehend. 3 months was enough for her to read through the contents of the stone tablet, but digesting it was not something that could be done in a short period of time. The only thing Su Yun could do was to defend with all his might and be wary of Tian's movements. Before he found him, he had to ensure the safety of the people around him. But at the moment, he was not only worried about Tian, but also the situation in the sword sheath that seemed to be getting worse. The ninth heaven was completely under Su Liulua's control, and had even been forged into a gigantic fortress. Previously, immortals would come to visit him every day, but after the problem with the stone tablet, Su Luluo declined all immortal activities. The encampment was left to Wei Ming to handle, so Su Yin did not need to worry. Everything seemed to be on the right track, so Su Yin did not need to worry about it anymore. He returned to the sword sheath, wanting to rely on the ancestor's power to get close to the evil sword, but even the current him could only watch the evil sword from afar. The terrifying evil sword Qi was already so dense that it was hard for people to think, and Ling Qing did not use the stone tablet to refine the swords in the seal sword formation, under the corrosion of the evil sword. Most of the swords had already started to rot. If not for the power of the seal sword formation, they would have long since been destroyed. "Qingyu," he called out. After a long time, he did not see the beautiful figure appear. He simply sat cross-legged in front of the terrifying evil sword Qi, as though he was waiting. The aura of the evil sword was cold and merciless. Even if it was only a strand of aura, it would not hesitate to tear apart everything around it until it died. Su Yin looked at the gigantic evil sword's body, his eyes suddenly revealing waves of confusion. Actually, from the moment he met Ling Qingyu, he suddenly realized that he did not understand Ling Qingyu at all. Although she was the sword spirit of the evil sword, he did not know anything about how she was born, how much power she could control the evil sword, whether or not she would die. What he knew seemed to be limited to a name. She had always been silently enduring all of this. It was not her intention for the evil sword to destroy the world. She wanted to stop and redeem the situation, but everything did not seem to be that simple. Kacha. A light, crisp sound came out. In this quiet world of swords, this light sound was especially ear-piercing. Another sword had fallen. He turned his head, but unknowingly, the beautiful figure was already standing beside him. Her charming face was still so haggard and pale, like a withered leaf in the wind, as though it could be blown away at any time. "What are you doing here? Tell me the truth. What happened to the evil sword?" "It's fine. Everything will be fine. The spirit swords and the sealed sword array have already started to collapse. The new spirit swords are unable to break through the spirit chi of the evil sword, and cannot be sent into the sword array to replace the damaged swords. The sword array will die sooner or later." She was silent. "Tell me your solution." She was silent again. Su Yun raised his head. His gaze was like a torch, staring at the dim eyes. He seemed to have sensed something. "Qing Yu, I will not allow you to do anything that will harm yourself." He suddenly stood up. Hugging on a Ling Qing Yu's two swords, he bellowed, "I—" Ling Qing Yu opened her mouth. At that moment, she did not dare to face Su Yun. As the sword spirit of the evil sword, she represented the soul of the evil sword. But because of the evil sword's destruction of the world, in order to cooperate with the person who sealed the evil sword to seal her own body, she had used up a large amount of sword spirit, causing the sword spirit to be severely injured, and she had lost a lot of her own strength, unable to recover. So it was difficult to suppress the evil sword's body. But how could she not understand Su Yun's words? He was worried that he would use the method of destroying the sword spirit to weaken or even destroy the evil sword. If the evil sword breaks through the seal, do you know what will happen? Ling Qing Yu suddenly laughed. She raised her eyes and looked at him without fear. "You will lose everything." Chapter 1533. Su Qing'er, Su Luluo, Hu Qianmei, Long Xianli, Xiao Chua, Huiro Muyu, Sword Ancestor, Octagon Aniseed, and all the others will be buried under the evil sword. No one in the world will be able to escape, and the 10,000 worlds will be restarted. Even you will not be able to escape. She spoke slowly, her voice sounding extremely weak. No one was willing to imagine that deathly, silent world, that colorless and soundless world. Perhaps it could no longer be called a world. Only chaos remained. That would be the end of everything, but would it be the beginning? "So you plan to sacrifice yourself?" Su Yun asked sternly. "I shouldn't have been born into this world." She said softly, "I will not allow you to make your own decisions." He clenched his fists tightly and roared in pain. The memories buried deep in his heart seemed to have been pulled out by someone. "Then what do you think I should do? Let everything go? Let the scene of the apocalypse reappear?" She raised her head and stared at Su Yun, her voice becoming more determined. Su Yun clenched his fists tightly. Suddenly, he took out the Heaven Destroyer sword and the Heavenly Sword, shooting the two swords into the sealing sword formation around the evil sword. The moment the two powerful sword formations landed on the ground, they immediately suppressed the evil sword's chi. These two swords had already surpassed their spirituality, and they were countless times stronger than the mother swords on the sword discourse arena. With the help of these two swords, the evil sword would definitely be able to suppress them, but this was only for a short period of time. Ling Qing Yu looked at Su Yun's actions and was startled. "What are you doing? Wait for me," Su Yun said seriously, then leaped out of the sword sheath. Ling Qing Yu did not know what Su Yun's plan was, but in her eyes, traces of emotion surfaced. After a long while, a long sigh came out from the sword sheath. After leaving the sword sheath, Su Yun immediately headed towards the ancient stone tablet. He stood at the ancient stone tablet and looked at it for a while, then went to the ninth heaven and summoned the great demon and a portion of the great immortals that had been summoned. Seeing the large number of experts gathered here, many people were filled with doubts. "Su Yun, did something happen? Why did you suddenly gather everyone here?" Octagon Aniseed came to ask about it, thinking that something had happened. Su Yun sat on it, and, after a moment of silence, he slowly said, "Do you know anything about the ancient times?" This baffling question caused everyone to be stunned. "Sir, what do you wish to know? What do you know? Tell me. As long as it's about the evil sword annihilation, you can tell me." Su Yun said, hearing about the ominous sword, some people seemed to have a lingering fear. Everyone was still confused, but they still told him everything they knew about the ominous sword destroyer. It is said that during the creation of the world, the myriad worlds were originally in a state of chaos. Afterwards, the ominous sword appeared and split the chaos apart. Thus, the myriad worlds appeared. I heard that the ominous sword was originally the sword of the god of creation. When the god of creation fell, the sword went out of control and turned into the ominous sword. It wanted to kill all worlds and bury all worlds with the god of creation. That's what I heard. I've heard that it's the ominous sword creation. There are no creation gods in this universe. It was the ominous sword that opened up the world and created all living things. I really don't know about that. Everyone was chattering and talking at the same time, but none of them had an accurate answer. Only then did Su Yun realize that it was difficult to get a clear answer when asking about these illusory things. Although these people were powerful, they were not from the ancient times. Regarding the secrets of creation, they were only hearsay, and many of them might just be rumors. Then do you know who survived when the ominous sword destroyer was destroyed? How did they survive? Where are they now? Can anyone tell me? Su Yun asked again. I don't know about this. Although I heard that some people used special methods to survive when the ominous sword destroyer was destroyed, I don't know who those people were. If they survived, they should be extremely terrifying existences right now. Could it be the ancestor? Entering the ancestor realm requires a miracle, but the people of the ancient era must have had a lot of opportunities. They must have come into contact with a lot of treasures like the ancient stone tablet. Maybe they're already ancestors. Everyone was talking at once. Hearing that, Su Yun's eyes were filled with helplessness. If he had asked the sect master or the demon saint back then, it might not have been so troublesome. They were extremely familiar with the ancient times, so they would definitely know, but it was too late to say anything now because he did not expect that the current situation of the ominous sword was already so bad. Master, if you want to know about the ancient era, maybe you can go to a place to find someone. That person might be able to answer what you want to know. At this moment, a great demon suddenly spoke up. Hearing that, everyone turned to look at the great demon. Su Yun also raised his head and looked at the great demon with bright eyes. Who? Su Yun asked. Every 100 years in the immortal world, a group of powerful immortals will gather at the peak of the immortal world. It is said that it is to celebrate the birthday of a highly respected old immortal. These immortals are all at the peak of the god realm. They are all great immortals. They are located at the edge of the immortal world. You should not know, but I heard that the old man might be someone from the ancient era. As for whether or not he survived under the blade of the ominous sword, I do not know. The great demon said, someone from the ancient era? If one were to say which period of time had the most understanding of the ominous sword, it would probably be the people from the ancient era. Hearing that, Su Yun was immediately energized. He looked at the crowd and asked, Who are those great immortals? Can you tell me your name? Do any of you know the great immortals at the border? Everyone looked at each other, but no one said a word. Master, I know one, but I don't know if he will go to the peak of the immortal world every 100 years. If Master needs him, I can bring him to see Master. A great immortal suddenly spoke up. Su Yun stood up, stared at the great immortal, and said, The peak of the immortal world is at the border of the immortal world. It will take a lot of time to come here. This trip is long enough. There is no need to inform him to come see me. Bring me to see him. Yes, sir. The great immortal nodded. Su Yun did not hesitate, and said to Chi, I will leave now. Chi, I will leave the matters here to you and Luluo. If there is anything, you could just give the order. I believe in your decision. Until now, Chi still did not understand what Su Yun wanted to do and was still confused. He pulled on Su Yun's sleeves and asked with a frown, Demon Lord, what is going on? Why are you asking about the ancient times out of nowhere? What are you going to do? Su Yun hesitated for a moment, then rubbed his head and said indifferently, I am unable to explain it clearly now. When the time comes, you will naturally know. There is no time to explain it to everyone now. Furthermore, the fewer people who knew about this, the better. Seeing that Su Yun did not say anything, Chi could only sigh and say, After you leave, what if Dark Sky attacks? Qinger and Hao Yin are enough to deal with the situation. Is Hao Yin trustworthy? After all, he is the ancestor. After experiencing too much deception, we still cannot lose our trust in a person, no matter how strong or weak he is. Furthermore, he has no reason to betray us. And if he really has any ill intentions, he will have to face the pursuit of the two primogenitors. Su Yun said, and then walked out. In fact, when he was in the ancient ruins, Su Yun had already seen Hao Yun's character. If he really wanted to deal with Su Yun, he would not have stood up to help Su Qing when he was no match for him. He could have waited until Su Qing exhausted all of Yong Ye's and Dark Sky's power, and then come out to reap the benefits. At that time, even if Su Yun obtained the stone tablet, he would not be able to deal with Yong Yi. Su Yun did not prepare much, and immediately had the great immortal lead the way. The edge of the immortal world was extremely far from here, and if a God Realm cultivator were to travel at full speed, it would take at least a few months, and the place that the great immortal mentioned was actually the most remote place. If the two of them were to travel like this, it would probably take them nearly half a year. However, Su Yun had already stepped into the primogenitor realm, and using the magic treasure in the ninth heaven, he could forcefully open a spatial door, and it would only take him a few days to reach the border. Of course, the so-called border of the immortal world was not the real border of the immortal world, but the border that was covered in clouds. Along the way, Su Yun had also witnessed the rise and fall of the immortal world. After the fall of eternal night, the people of the immortal world experienced another calamity. Adding the fall of the ancient god assembly, Su Yun had yet to set any rules for the new immortal world, so the immortal world was currently in chaos. Of course, before there were 1,000 things waiting to be done, there would definitely be chaos and darkness, which Su Yun could not stop. "Where are you from?" On the way, Su Yun asked the great immortal beside him. "Golden Pool Sect," the man said. So it turned out that this person was called the Golden Pool Immortal, and was originally the sect leader of the Golden Pool Sect, but after the Golden Pool Sect was breached by the Eternal Heavenly Gods Council, all of the resources in the sect were taken away, the Mountain Gate was destroyed, and the people in the sect were either dead or escaped. He was powerless to reverse the situation, and was unwilling to submit to the Eternal Heavenly Gods Council. After the Eternal Heavenly Gods Council sent people to kill him, he could only run away and hide with his friends for a while. After Su Luluo was ordered by Su Yun to attack the Eternal Heavenly Gods Council, he received the news and immediately came to support him. After winning, he became Su Yun's subordinate, hoping to receive some pointers from Su Yun and step into the God-sealed realm. Although the ancient God assembly has swept through the immortal world, they have yet to touch the borders. This time, many of the immortals at the borders have only heard of it, but did not intervene. Maybe they do not understand Master. Later, I will bring Master to my friend's place and introduce them. Golden Pool Immortal laughed. "No need. If possible, quickly find your friend and bring me to the peak of the immortal world," Su Yun said slowly. "All right." Golden Pool Immortal nodded. The two of them increased their speed. Chapter 1534. What? Daoist Tong Tian has already gone to the peak of the immortal world? Beneath a jade building, immortal Jinshi looked at the Tao child in front of him in shock and cried out involuntarily. "Yes, immortal lord, Master has already set off to participate in the divine pill gathering that happens once every 100 years at the peak of the immortal world. He has already walked for a day. I believe he will reach the peak of the immortal world soon," the Tao child at the door said. Hearing that, immortal Jinshi looked at Su Yun awkwardly. "Master, I really did not know when the great immortals would gather. I did not expect it to be in the next few days." "That doesn't matter. We are not here to participate in the gathering, but to find someone. Let's head to the peak of the immortal world now. Do you know the location?" Su Yun said indifferently. Since he was not here, Su Yun would naturally chase after him. Time was of the essence. Su Yun could not possibly wait here, so he had to fight for every minute he could. "I know the location, but the peak of the immortal world is the cultivation place of the old immortal elder. He personally set up a barrier, so without an invitation, it will be difficult to enter." Immortal Jin Shi was in a difficult position. Su Yun understood his worries. To be able to make so many God-sealing stage experts come to congratulate him, the old immortal elder probably had the power of the ancestor. If things got out of hand, the situation would get out of hand. Don't worry, we'll cross the bridge when we get there. Let's go take a look first. If the old immortal elder can really make so many people come to congratulate him, he must be a broad-minded person. If we want to see him, we won't reject him. Let's go. Seeing Su Yun's insistence, immortal Jinshi did not say anything else and immediately led the way. Fortunately, this place was not far from the peak of the immortal world. It was only a day and a half's journey, and with the two of them being powerful, in a day's time, they were close to the peak of the immortal world. In the vast immortal world, there were a few places that were called the peak of the immortal world. This was the first time Su Yun had come to the peak of the immortal world, but for this place to be called the peak of the immortal world, it was worthy of its name. A strange spiral cloud rose from the ground and reached the top of the sky. It was so high that one could not see the top of it. One by one, the immortals landed on the ground. They no longer flew in the air. Instead, they walked on the ground and followed the spiral cloud. There was no lack of God-sealing stage immortals among these immortals. It seemed that everyone was very respectful to the master of the peak of the immortal world. "My lord, should we fly up or walk up?" Immortal Goldpool asked carefully. As the ancestor, Su Yun's strength was definitely not weaker than the peak of the immortal world. Furthermore, Su Yun's dual cultivation partner was also the ancestor, so no one would believe that he was the master of the myriad realms. Furthermore, the Golden Pool Immortal was not sure if the master of the peak of the immortal world had the strength of the ancestor. "Let's go up." Su Yun's words surprised the Golden Pool Immortal. "Since I have a favor to ask, I should be more sincere." He landed on the ground and walked up with the immortals. Although Su Yun had grasped the great exquisite technique and was powerful, he did not want to make things too complicated. If he treated them sincerely, they would not hide anything from him. Immortal Goldpool could only follow. However, compared to Su Yun, the Golden Pool Immortal was clearly more famous amongst the immortals. On the way, they met a few familiar faces who greeted the Golden Pool Immortal. However, when they saw that the Golden Pool Immortal was actually following behind a young man in a black robe, it was out of their expectations. Those who were familiar with the Golden Pool Immortal should know that he was a great immortal at the peak of the God-sealing stage. Who was he to actually let the Golden Pool Immortal follow him? Many people started to guess, but they did not dare to rashly greet him, afraid that he was some kind of powerful expert with a bad temper, and offending him would be disastrous. The Golden Pool Immortal casually dealt with them, and then led Su Yun directly towards the spiral cloud ground. The two of them were very fast, and not long after, they reached the peak of the spiral cloud ground. There was a huge mountain there. The mountain was covered in green grass, and a huge villa was located on it. In front of the mountain gate, a few immortal children were serving the incoming immortals. This was not the first time these immortals had come. They did not even need to show their invitations to enter. Occasionally, some unfamiliar faces would check their invitations. Seeing that, the Golden Pool Immortal immediately ran to the side of the few great immortals and whispered a few words into their ears. The few great immortals revealed ugly expressions, but they still took out their invitations and handed them over to the Golden Pool Immortal. They were all regular customers, so the immortal children would not check, but Su Yun and the Golden Pool Immortal might not. Fortunately, the Golden Pool Immortal knew some acquaintances, and the two of them took the invitation and successfully entered the mountain gate. The villa was bustling with noise and excitement. There were many immortals from all over the world gathered here. The worst of them were at the peak of the Origin Void Realm, and most of them were at the God-sealing stage. They gathered together in twos and threes, chatting and laughing. "Yo, isn't this Taoist priest T on you? Long time no see, how have you been?" "It's all right, but you, Spirit Platform Immortal, your cultivation has improved really fast. It's only been 100 years, and you're already at the God-sealing stage. Compared to you, I'm still far from it. Look, Fairy Lu Li is here." As the shouts rang out, many immortals turned their gazes towards the door in unison. They saw a woman wearing a glass dress walk in. Beside her stood two young masters who were excitedly talking to her about something. Many immortals walked over and greeted them one by one. The young master and fairy were not considered strong. They were all at the peak of the origin void realm. But even those in the god-sealing stage were respectful to them, without the slightest bit of disrespect. There were quite a few big shots at the scene, and the moment they arrived, they caused a commotion, especially the middle-aged man in the golden robe. The moment he stepped in, the entire audience let out quite a few exclamations of surprise, as if they were extremely surprised by his arrival. This person's name was Heavenly Sovereign Falling Rock, and he was at the peak of the god-sealing stage. He was an extremely famous great immortal. It was said that he had grasped the heaven and earth technique and could reverse the yin and yang and reverse the universe. However, Suyin was not interested in these people. His goal in coming here was only the old immortal elder, so what happened to the others naturally had nothing to do with him. He looked around and saw that there were many immortal children walking around in the courtyard, carrying melons and immortal wine, providing some nourishment for the immortals who had rushed over. Su Yun found an immortal child and said, "May I ask where immortal elder Emoyo is? I am Su Yun, and I have something important to discuss with you." "Su Yun? I've never heard of you." The immortal child glanced at Su Yun and chuckled. "Sir, this should be your first time here, right? What kind of person is my family's immortal sovereign? How can he be someone that you can see just because you want to? If you have something to do, you can wait here. You will naturally see him if you treat him well." "Brat, you actually dare to speak to my lord like that? Do you know who he is?" Immortal Jinshi was anxious. Su Yun was a descendant of the ancestor. How terrifying was he? In his eyes, all the immortals present were no different from ants, and this immortal child actually dared to speak like that. If he angered Su Yun, the consequences would be unimaginable. The strong had the pride of the strong. No one could blaspheme them, because the strong controlled everything about the weak, so as long as there was a little dissatisfaction, they could start a massacre, and no one could stop them. But before immortal Jinshi could flare up, Su Yun raised a hand and said indifferently, "Don't be angry, he's right. Since I have a request, I should still be polite. Wait for the immortal elder to come out. I will talk to him." Su Yun did not want to cause trouble. Although he was anxious, there were some things that were useless to be anxious about. The immortal child chuckled and turned to leave. Seeing that, immortal Jinshi was furious. He realized that this immortal child did not even know him. Even if this immortal child had 10 guts, this immortal child would not dare to be so arrogant to them. "Find a place to sit," Su Yun said. Immortal Jinshi nodded his head, his gaze sweeping around. He saw a stone table and stone bench not far away. There were many immortal wine and immortal fruits placed on it. His eyes immediately lit up and laughed. "Master, this way, please." Su Yun nodded and walked over. But before he sat down, a shout came out. "The two of you, go sit somewhere else. This is for Fairy Lu Li and the 7th young master." The voice was still filled with arrogance, and there was a hint of command in it. Looking, it was actually a servant that followed behind the 7th young master. Impudent! Immortal Jinshi was completely enraged. He could no longer hold it in, and immediately slammed the table and shouted. He admired Su Yun. As an ancestor, he actually had such self-restraint. If he had grasped the power of the ancestor, how could he be like this? How could he not let the immortal elder personally go to the 9th heaven to see Su Yun? But not only did Su Yun come, he followed the immortals and did not barge in forcefully. Instead, he followed the rules. This etiquette made the golden pool immortal admire him from the bottom of his heart. This was the self-restraint that a true superior should have. But a superior had the self-restraint of a superior. As a follower, how could he just watch as his master was humiliated? Furthermore, this shout of immortal Jinshi was not because he was Su Yun's subordinate, but because he was shouting for Su Yun from the bottom of his heart. They do not know my identity and strength. It is natural for them to be like this. Su Yun seemed to have seen through immortal Jinshi's thoughts and slowly said, "But, Master, no need to cause trouble. Since they want it, then give it to them." Su Yun stood up, turned and left. Master. Immortal Jinshi opened his mouth, but did not know what to say. Seeing that, the seventh young master and Fairy Lu Li did not say anything, and directly walked over, sat down and discussed in detail, and tasted the immortal wine. Immortal Jinshi was indignant. He led Su Yun to a table not far away. There were already two immortals sitting at the table. Seeing Immortal Jinshi and Su Yun walking over, the two of them frowned. Get lost. One of them bellowed. What? Immortal Jinshi's face turned cold. There's someone sitting here. The man pointed to the empty stool and said, as though he could not be bothered to look at the two of them. Everyone here has status. If the two of you want to find a place to rest, I think that is more suitable. The other man laughed and pointed to a place not far away. And over there was the place where the immortal children were standing. This was a blatant humiliation. Chapter 1535. You want me to stand there? Immortal Goldpool's face almost twisted in anger. He was about to explode. What's going on? Lord Kinso, what happened? The immortal who lent the invitation to Su Yun and the Golden Pool saw that there was a quarrel and immediately walked over. He bowed solemnly towards Immortal Jinshi, then asked curiously, Lord Jinshi, what happened? You recognize these two? Immortal Goldpool's eyes were cold as he pointed at the two. These two people were only at the middle stage of the deity ascension realm. They were nothing in the eyes of Immortal Jinshi. These two are my senior brothers. We're from the same sect, and they've already established their own sections. I wonder what kind of entanglement Lord Jinshi has with my two senior brothers. If so, please don't get angry. This is all a misunderstanding. Not angry? Your two senior brothers sure are arrogant. They're only at the ascended god realm middle stage, yet they dare to be so arrogant. They want me and my lord to team up with those celestial children. Linen Immortal, I think it's better if you don't call yourself Linen Immortal. In the future, you should call yourself Supreme Immortal. This is more in line with your sex aura. Jinshi Immortal said coldly. Hearing the conversation between their junior apprentice brother and Jinshi Immortal, the hearts of the two sitting down thumped. They knew that things were not going well. They had offended a major character. The immortal in yellow stood up and said with a flattering smile, Ha, so it's junior brother's friend. Ha ha, it's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Please don't take it to heart. I apologize to the two of you. Come, please take a seat. The blue-robed celestial also stood up and said with a smile, Please forgive us for our impoliteness just now. Come, please take a seat. We will accompany you to drink and apologize. To say that an existence at the intermediate stage of the ascended god realm was insignificant, this immortal Jinshi must be at the pinnacle of the ascended god realm. He was a great immortal, so they naturally couldn't afford to offend him. Immortal Jinshi snorted. He was prepared to accept the apology, but just then, Su Yun suddenly spoke out and said indifferently, Jinshi, let's go over, since they want us to stand with the immortal child. Then let's go over. Hearing this, Immortal Jinshi was stunned. Malor this, Su Yun did not say anything. His face was expressionless as he walked over. Seeing that, Jinshi did not know what Su Yun meant, but he still followed. The plain-clothed immortal hurriedly pulled Immortal Goldpool back, asking softly, Lord Goldpool, who is this person? Why do you address him as Lord? Could it be a powerful, great immortal? Great deity? Immortal Goldpool snorted coldly and said, What are great immortals in his eyes? The few of you, good luck. Finished speaking, Immortal Jinshi waved his hand and followed. The plain-clothed immortal's heart sank when he heard that. What was a great immortal to him? Then what realm was he in? It couldn't be the primogenitor, right? Impossible. The plain-clothed immortal shook his head repeatedly. Primogenitors were such distant and powerful existences. They were practically gods to the immortals of the celestial realm. How could he casually meet a primogenitor? The power behind that person was probably extremely terrifying, which was why Jinshi Immortal was willing to lower himself to such an extent. The plain-clothed immortal glanced at his two senior brothers, who were in a daze. He sighed and walked away. Su Yun walked over and in front of the astonished eyes of the children, he sat down cross-legged. Immortal Jinshi naturally did not have any other meaning, and also sat down. The immortals who were sitting on the stone benches drinking immortal wine and eating immortal fruits saw that Su Yun actually obediently sat beside the children and immediately laughed out loud. The courtyard was bustling with noise and excitement. Everyone's eyes swept over, full of smiles. No one recognized Su Yun, but a few of the immortals recognized immortal Jinshi and knew that he was a great immortal. Although his sect had been destroyed, his strength was still there, and they could not afford to offend him. They did not laugh. They wanted to approach him, but felt that it was not appropriate, so they chose to remain silent. More and more immortals came, and looked at immortal Jinshi and Su Yun strangely. The stone tables in the courtyard were already filled with people. If there were not enough seats, the children would bring out some stone tables from inside. The purpose of these people coming here was not only to celebrate the birthday of the immortal elder at the peak of the celestial realm, but also to attend the divine pill conference. It was about time, and the children walked to the entrance of the courtyard, lined up in 2 rows, and shouted loudly, "Welcome, immortal elder!" With that said, a gigantic cauldron flew in from outside the courtyard and landed on the empty space in the middle of the courtyard. The cauldron landed on the ground, and a purple fire was born beneath it. The cauldron was boiling, and the terrifying flames caused the people in the courtyard to cry out in alarm. Then, celestial music sounded out, and a white-haired old man in white walked into the courtyard with a cane in his hand. What extravagance! It was also immortal Jinshi's first time participating in the divine pill conference. Seeing the immortal elder walk in, he could not help but ask. Su Yun glanced at the immortal elder. He had already seen through him. The immortal elder was not ordinary. He actually had the strength of a pseudo-ancestor. From the looks of it, it was possible that he was someone from the ancient era, but he had been stuck in a pseudo-ancestor for a period of time. It was not easy to cross this hurdle. If he had the help of the stone tablet, he would be able to succeed. But why didn't he participate in the stone tablet competition? When the immortal elder arrived, the immortals in the courtyard immediately stood up and bowed. "Greetings, immortal elder." The shouts were like a wave. Su Yun also stood up. Seeing that, immortal Jinshi could only follow. "Everyone is too polite. Please sit down." The immortal elder laughed and said, his face full of benevolence. He looked around and finally saw immortal Jinshi and Su Yun, the 2 people who did not seem to fit in with the group. The 2 of them looked extremely unfamiliar. The immortal elder walked over and sized up the 2 of them. Immortal Jinshi did not hide his chi. He could sense that he was a great immortal. As for Su Yun, he was extremely surprised. This person was actually unfathomable. It was hard to see through him. "Why are the 2 of you standing here? Why aren't you sitting?" The immortal elder asked. "Immortal elder, you can't blame us for this. We came here to admire the immortal elder, but we didn't expect to be looked down upon by others. Not only are we not allowed to sit, we are even asked to be in the same group as the immortal children. I don't mind, but what kind of status does my master have?" Immortal Jinshi said indignantly. The immortal elder frowned. He clasped his hands towards Su Yun and asked, "I wonder who you are." "I am Su Yun. I have come here today to ask immortal elder about something." Su Yun cupped his fists and said, "Su Yun?" The moment those 2 words were said, the entire courtyard immediately burst into an uproar. Everyone was flabbergasted as they stared blankly at the person over there. Su Yun. These 2 words could be said to be the hottest word in the immortal world in recent years. Not only was he the demon lord of the demon realm, he had also annihilated the immortal court and the divine dragon clan. It was said that not long ago, he had completely defeated the insufferably arrogant ancient god council and defeated Dark Sky. There had long been rumors that Su Yun had already reached the ancestor realm. No one knew if it was true or false. But regardless of whether it was true or false, he definitely could not escape from the pseudo-ancestor realm. Otherwise, he would not be able to become enemies with Dark Sky. When the immortal children saw how respectful the immortal elder was to the 2 of them, they were so scared that their entire body trembled. and the senior and junior brothers in cloth clothes could not sit still, their bodies trembling. However, Immortal Lu Li and seventh young master did not care much, while young Master Zhang, who had been following Immortal Lu Li, laughed. Seems like seventh young master has gotten into trouble. Next time when you go out, you should restrain the servants by your side. Don't bark like dogs. Umph. I don't know where this wild cultivator came from. What's there to be afraid of? If he has the guts, he can come and settle the score with me. I'll lend him 10 guts. Let's see if he has the guts. Seventh young master said indifferently, his words extremely arrogant. He did not deliberately suppress his voice, as if he was deliberately saying it for Su Yun to hear. However, regardless of whether it was these immortals or Golden Pool immortal, they were all mistaken about one thing. Su Yun was not a broad-minded person. No matter how high his realm was, it was difficult for his nature to change. Hearing Su Yun announce his name, how could the immortal elder not be surprised? He hurriedly bowed again, and hurriedly said, "So, it is Lord Su who has graced us with his presence. I have not gone out to welcome you. Please forgive me." With that, he summoned the immortal children from before and angrily scolded, "Bastard, do you know that you have neglected an esteemed guest? Quick, bring the 9J dragon throne over. I want to treat Lord Su as an esteemed guest." Hearing the immortal elder's words, the immortal court immortal was so scared that his legs went soft, and he hurriedly ran away. But at this time, Su Yun's voice came out again. At this moment, his voice was extremely cold. "Immortal elder, this time, I, Su Yun, have already done enough etiquette. I do not think that I have offended anyone, but if others offend me, I am afraid it will not be so simple." The immortal elder's face stiffened and carefully asked, "Lord Su Yun, what do you mean by that?" However, Su Yun did not explain further and casually waved his hand. A sharp sword chi flew out from his palm and instantly killed the immortal children, destroying their souls. Looking down on others, you deserve to die. In the blink of an eye, a person's life was taken. The terrifying sword chi was still lingering in the air, causing the surrounding immortals to tremble. This attack did not give the immortal elder any face. In fact, Su Yun had already given him enough face. If Su Yun really fell out with him, the peak of the immortal world would no longer exist. Seeing Su Yun make his move just like that, everyone was shocked. The immortal elder did not dare to speak. He could already tell from Su Yun's move. Ancestor. This person, he was the true ancestor. However, this was not the end. Su Yun turned and walked towards the cloth-clothed senior and junior brother. The Golden Pool immortal also followed. The immortals' gazes seemed to be glued to him, and they stared at him blankly. The cloth-clothed senior and junior brothers also felt the danger and stood up from the stone bench. "Sir, please forgive us. Please forgive us." The cloth-clothed immortal was the first to sense that something was wrong, and immediately ran over, cupping his fists and saying anxiously. However, the yellow-clothed immortal and blue-clothed immortal behind him were not afraid at all. The blue-clothed immortal snorted and said solemnly, "Junior brother, there is no need to plead. This person's eyes are filled with killing intent. He is determined to kill us." With that, he looked at Su Yun and said coldly, "However, before you touch us, shouldn't you consider the situation? We are the last disciples of the 10,000-robed Venerable. If you touch us, you will provoke the 10,000-robed Venerable. Have you thought it through?" Chapter 1536. 10,000-robed Venerable? Who is it? Su Yun said indifferently. "Is it the ancestor?" Hearing Su Yun's words, the three of them were stunned. "It's just someone at the peak of the Ascended God Realm," Golden Pool Immortal said. "Peak of the Ascended God Realm?" Su Yun said indifferently. "Even if it's the ancestor, what do I have to fear?" He raised his hand and slashed downwards. The blue-robed immortal screamed in fear, but it was useless. The sword energy slashed down again, and the blue-robed immortal followed in the footsteps of the immortal child. "You're the ancestor? You're really the ancestor?" The yellow-robed immortal screamed in despair. He did not even have the strength to stand. Seeing how terrifying and powerful Su Yun was at that moment, he felt as though the entire world was collapsing. No one tried to stop him, nor could they. No one begged for mercy. Even the immortal elders could only stand at the side and watch. Supercilious and arrogant. Kill. Su Yun waved his hand again. The yellow-robed immortal died. There was no obstruction, no warning. When the word kill was said, it was as though his fate had already been decided. As for the cloth immortal, Su Yun did not look at him. From the start to the end, the cloth immortal did not provoke Su Yun. He only spoke to mediate. You can tell your master that if he wants revenge, tell him to come to the ninth heaven to find me. Su Yun said indifferently. The cloth immortal sighed and cupped his fists. This was all caused by my two senior brothers. They offended the ancestor and ended up like this. It's not your fault. I believe master will understand. The ancestor was a noble existence. If he had insulted the ancestor like this, it would not have been as simple as Su Yun erasing him. His soul would have been imprisoned and either refined or tortured. It would have been a tragic end. Su Yun did not speak and turn around again. But this time, he walked towards Lu Li and the seventh young master's table. The seventh young master's face was stiff and pale. He never thought that Su Yun was the ancestor. Do you want to settle it yourself, or do you want me to do it? Su Yun said indifferently. The seventh young master clenched his teeth and suddenly turned around. He slammed his palm onto the servant's head. The servant's body immediately split open. He didn't even have time to scream before he died. His soul spilled out and looked at the seventh young master with fear and despair. However, the seventh young master didn't show any mercy. He attacked again and destroyed the servant's soul. Then, he turned around and looked at Su Yun. Are you satisfied now? However, Su Yun shook his head. You seem to be mistaken. I didn't want him to die. I want you dead. You. The seventh young master was shocked. He stood up and said angrily, if it wasn't for its owner's indulgence, why would this mad dog come out to bite people? This shouldn't be the first time, right? You are an ancestor. Why must you be so overbearing? Seventh young master gritted his teeth. If I wasn't the primogenitor, what would you do? It's just a few insults. Aren't you making a mountain out of a molehill? My father is the 3 lives heavenly king. Although you are the primogenitor, you should have heard of my father. The seventh young master snorted. His attitude was extremely arrogant. The 3 lives heavenly king was extremely famous in the immortal realm. It was said that he cultivated 3 Daos, namely the sword Dao, the immortal Dao, and the heavenly Dao. He achieved great success in all of them. His strength was at the pinnacle of the ascended god's realm. Although there were many great immortals here, they had just become great immortals. Compared to the 3 lives heavenly king, who had been famous for a long time, they couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. Hearing the seventh young master's words, many people had a look of realization. No wonder this young master was so arrogant. He actually dared to say such words. It's just that he seemed to have made a mistake. Furthermore, he didn't seem to have any concept of the primogeniture. He was completely brainless. No matter how strong the 3 lives heavenly king was, he was still an ascended god. No matter how weak Su Yun was, he was still in primogeniture. The weakest primogeniture could kill the strongest ascended god like slaughtering a pig or a dog. And this seventh young master didn't want to admit his mistake and beg for mercy at this critical moment. Instead, he spoke with such an attitude. It was no different from seeking death. Su Yun glanced at the seventh young master, then at the immortal master beside him. He asked, who is the 3 lives heavenly king? Everyone was speechless. If he wants to avenge you, let him go to the 9 heavens. Or I can go there myself. That's fine too. Su Yun said, all right, are you going to do it yourself, or do I have to do it? Make your choice. If you let me do it, you won't die so easily. Su Yun ignored the seventh young master's words and continued. The seventh young master was stunned. He looked at the immortal master, but the immortal master shook his head and didn't say anything. He couldn't interfere. He could see things more clearly than the seventh young master. He also had a deeper understanding of the primogeniture. If he really interfered, he was afraid that the entire immortal realm would be buried with him. The seventh young master gritted his teeth and stared at Su Yun. He knew that he couldn't escape death today. But at this moment, he suddenly took out a talisman and tore it. A powerful spatial chi landed on the courtyard and turned into a huge spatial array. A powerful sealed god chi overflowed from the spatial array. Su Yun looked up. It wasn't the first time he saw a technique similar to this spatial array. He remembered that outside the graveyard of immortals and demons, he had a dispute with the Seven Emotions Palace's Holy Maiden. The Holy Maiden had also used this technique. This was a technique that forcefully opened a spatial door. It was obvious that the seventh young master had activated the life-saving talisman that the 3 lives Heavenly King had given him. He had forcefully built a tunnel with his master, the 3 lives Heavenly King, and established a connection. The 3 lives Heavenly King could now pass through the spatial array. What happened? Disciple, are you all right? A low and deep voice came from within the space formation, and the voice even contained a trace of coldness. Master, save me. This person wants to kill me. The seventh young master hurriedly shouted, but his shout, in the ears of the crowd, was like a death sentence for the 3 lives Heavenly King. The seventh young master wanted to kill his own master. Su Yun restrained his chi. As long as he did not say anything, no one would know that he was the ancestor. The person in the spatial array heard the seventh young master's words and snorted. This is the immortal elder's place. It's the peak of the immortal world. There are countless tyrants here. Which expert dares to be so presumptuous here? With that said, a figure slowly passed through the spatial array. He brought along an extremely terrifying sealed god chi, causing the surrounding immortals to retreat. Just this aura alone was enough to cause people to be intimidated. A middle-aged man with long hair and a long beard, dressed in a yellow robe, descended from within. There was a huge taiji pattern on his chest, and he held an exquisite rui scepter in his hand. He landed before the seventh young master. He cupped his fist towards the immortal elder and said, "Immortal elder." Then, his gaze landed on Su Yun. He could tell from the position of the immortal elder and Su Yun. This person was actually standing on the same level as the immortal elder. Who is he? Are you the 3 lives Heavenly King? Su Yun asked indifferently. Who are you? The 3 lives Heavenly King frowned. Master, it's him. He said his name is Su Yun. He wants to kill me. The seventh young master immediately shouted from behind. But the moment he said that, the 3 lives Heavenly King immediately turned around and slapped the seventh young master's face. The slap sent him spinning, and he almost fell to the ground. He was in an extremely sorry state. Seeing this scene, many people were stunned. The seventh young master was even more confused. He covered his face and looked at his own master in a daze. The 3 lives Heavenly King's face was filled with anger. He stared at the seventh young master and said angrily, "Bastard, do you know who you offended? Hurry up and kneel." The seventh young master was at a loss. He originally thought that his master would at least uphold justice for him. Who would have thought that without even asking, the seventh young master would slap him? This made him instantly dumbfounded. Master? Hurry up and kneel. You bastard. The 3 lives Heavenly King shouted sternly. Even though the seventh young master was at a loss and unwilling, since the 3 lives Heavenly King had said so, he had no right to refuse. He could only clench his teeth and kneel. Seeing this, the 3 lives Heavenly King snorted at the seventh young master. Then, he turned around and cupped his fists at Su Yun and the immortal elder. This disciple is insensible and has offended the 2 of you. Please forgive me. I will take my disciple and leave now. I will not disturb the 2 of you anymore. After saying that, he carried the seventh young master and left. Leave? Did I say that you can leave just like that? Su Yun spoke again, but his voice was still as calm as before. The 3 lives Heavenly King frowned and looked at Su Yun. I wonder if you have anything else to say? You are a person who knows how to read people's expressions. However, you were too arrogant in the past. Otherwise, your disciple would not have been so arrogant. Before you crossed the spatial array, I could feel the killing intent that you were emitting. Perhaps if my strength was only at the ascended God realm, you would not have apologized like this. Instead, you would have directly faced me with your sword, right? Su Yun said. When the Three Lives Heavenly King heard this, he frowned. Su Yun was right. This spatial array was a life-saving talisman that he had given to the seventh young master. It could only be used when the seventh young master's life was in danger. However, every time it was activated, the Three Lives Heavenly King would be extremely furious. The seventh young master had some fame in the immortal realm. No matter who it was, if they wanted to kill his disciple, it meant that they were looking down on him. How could he tolerate this? He did not want to be reasonable, and he did not care who was right or wrong. As long as someone made a move on his disciple and looked down on him, he would eliminate that person. However, this time, the seventh young master had clearly kicked an iron plate. Even he, the Three Lives Heavenly King, was not a match for the other party. Lord Su Yun, you are thinking too much. Your might has shaken the immortal realm. I would definitely not dare to have any thoughts about you. The Three Lives Heavenly King suppressed the anger in his heart and forced a smile. With so many immortals here, he had already lost all his face. However, Su Yun did not care about that. He raised his hand and grabbed the air. The seventh young master flew into his palm like a sandbag. Chapter 1537. The seventh young master could not resist at all and was directly grabbed by Su Yun and then thrown to the ground. The seventh young master was like a dead dog, lying on the ground, trembling slightly, not daring to resist at all. Although Su Yun did not know much about the seventh young master and the Three Lives Heavenly King, this kind of arrogant and despotic person would definitely bully other immortals on a daily basis. Perhaps many innocent people had died in his hands, and the Three Lives Heavenly King, as his master, not only did not teach him well, he even thought about how to protect the seventh young master. This kind of protection and indulgence made Su Yun extremely disgusted. He was not a broad-minded person, and with the killing intent that the Three Lives Heavenly King had revealed earlier, Su Yun had already decided not to show any mercy. Since that's the case, then I'll give the life of this evil disciple to you, my lord. The Three Lives Heavenly King noticed that something was wrong with Su Yun's gaze, and knew that if this continued, the situation would only get worse. So he quickly said, "Just his life? Since you're here, then stay behind." Su Yun's voice suddenly became extremely cold. He made his move again, wanting to capture the Three Lives Heavenly King. The Three Lives Heavenly King roared, and immediately slashed the air, tearing open a crack, and tried to enter, but before he could approach the crack, he was stopped by a figure. It was Immortal Jinshi. Although Immortal Jinshi's overall strength was not as good as the Three Lives Heavenly King's, it was very easy for him to stop him. "You want to leave? Where do you think you're going?" Immortal Jinshi's palm struck out, and a golden eagle flew out, forcing the Three Lives Heavenly King to retreat. On the other side, Su Yun grabbed the air. His hand seemed to pierce through the void, appearing beside the Three Lives Heavenly King, grabbing his neck and pulling him over. On the way, the Three Lives Heavenly King seemed to have lost all ability to resist. "Don't kill me!" The Three Lives Heavenly King roared again and again, but Su Yun did not show any mercy. At this critical moment, the Three Lives Heavenly King finally shouted out a shocking piece of news. "Su Yun, Lord Su Yun, don't kill me. As long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to tell you where Dark Sky is hiding now." Everyone in the immortal world knew about the relationship between Su Yun and Dark Sky. Both of them were ancestors, and they were old enemies. The ninth heaven had already been conquered by Su Yun, so Dark Sky would definitely not let it go. However, he was not Su Yun's match, so he naturally did not dare to show his face. And with such a powerful enemy threatening him, Su Yun would naturally not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Getting rid of Dark Sky was definitely Su Yun's biggest matter. However, this was only what outsiders thought. What Su Yun was most concerned about was not Dark Sky, but the ominous sword. "Oh, do you know where the Dark Sky is? Tell me about it. Are you willing not to kill me?" The Three Lives Heavenly King hurriedly said. "Even if you don't say it, I will know. Don't you know that Wei Ming, who is proficient in the great exquisite technique, has followed me for many years? Su Yun's eyes suddenly flashed with light and directly stared at the Three Lives Heavenly King. The Three Lives Heavenly King's entire body trembled. At this moment, he realized that he was completely shocked by Su Yun's terrifying power and killing intent, to the point that he had even forgotten about the fact that Su Yun was proficient in the Great Exquisite Technique. If he said that, it meant that he might have some sort of connection with Dark Sky. So, Su Yun would not let him go. In truth, through the Great Exquisite Technique, Su Yun had indeed sensed that the Three Lives Heavenly King had some sort of connection with Dark Sky. Even though it was not much, it meant that the Three Lives Heavenly King was someone from Dark Sky. Su Yun snorted. He directly split open the top of the Three Lives Heavenly King's head, pulled out his soul, and threw it to the golden pool immortal. This person's soul is powerful. Take it and cultivate it. Hearing that, Golden Pool Immortal was ecstatic. He caught the soul and immediately knelt down to thank Su Yun. Thank you, Master. The soul of the Three Lives Heavenly King could be said to be a priceless treasure. To those at the peak of the God realm, with such a powerful soul, they would have a glimmer of hope to break through to the pseudo-ancestor realm. Although it was not much, it was better than nothing. The people at the God realm, including the immortal leader, were all envious when they saw this. The soul of the Three Lives Heavenly King was of great use even to a pseudo-ancestor like the immortal leader, but Su Yun generously bestowed it to the Golden Pool Immortal. The Three Lives Heavenly King had fallen. Su Yun looked at the ashen face of the seventh young master, and without saying a word, he attacked again. To be able to die in the hands of an ancestor, the seventh young master could be considered to be not bad. When the two of them were killed, the entire courtyard became silent. At that moment, everyone who looked at Su Yun was filled with fear and respect. He was a strong cultivator, an absolute strong cultivator. With him standing there, even if it was the immortal leader, he would not be considered much. After getting rid of those eyesores, Su Yun looked towards the table. Fairy Lu Li and young Master Zhang trembled, not daring to breathe loudly. If Su Yun wanted to kill them, no one in the entire immortal world would be able to save them. However, Su Yun only glanced at them once and then shifted his gaze. At this moment, the people who mocked and looked down on Su Yun all felt their heartbeats quicken, their bodies trembling, afraid that Su Yun would settle the score with them. But Su Yun did not want to waste any more time. He cupped his fists towards the immortal leader and said indifferently, "My apologies, I have been rude. My lord is too polite. It was my bad reception that caused this. Now that the matter is over, please take a seat. We will start the Divine Pill Assembly." The immortal leader was overwhelmed by the favor and quickly said, this time, Su Yun did not come to participate in the Divine Pill Assembly, but to ask about something else. Su Yun went straight to the point. There was no need to be polite at this time. "My lord, what is it? Please speak frankly. I will definitely tell you everything I know," the immortal leader said. Su Yun swept his gaze across the courtyard, and all the immortals' gazes landed on him. He frowned, but did not say anything, but the immortal leader was a cautious person. He immediately said, "Mu Yuan, help me entertain these guests. The Divine Pill Assembly will be temporarily postponed. Please forgive me." With that, he bowed to Su Yun. "My lord, this place is rather noisy. I will wait in the inner hall for a chat." Su Yun nodded and walked into the hall with him. The hall was filled with an antique atmosphere, and an exquisite cauldron was placed in the center. There seemed to be pills being refined inside the cauldron, and waves of fragrance drifted out. The immortal boy left the hall, and there were only 3 people sitting there: Su Yun, the Golden Pool Immortal, and the immortal leader. The immortal leader cupped his fists again and said respectfully, "I wonder why Lord Su Yun came all the way here to look for me. I heard that immortal leader is an ancestor from the ancient era and knows a lot about the ancient era. Su Yun, came here to ask about a few things." Su Yun said indifferently, "The ancient era?" The immortal leader frowned, and a look of difficulty surfaced in his eyes. Su Yun understood the immortal leader's expression, but did not say anything. Not long after, the immortal leader sighed and said, "I originally did not wish to talk about the ancient era with others, But since Lord Suyun asked, then I will tell you directly. I wonder what Lord Suyun wants to ask. Ominous sword world destroyer. Suyun spat out these 4 words. With that said, the immortal leader's face turned pale. Ominous sword world destroyer? My lord, why are you asking about this? The immortal leader seemed to be extremely afraid of the ominous sword, and even his words became incoherent. But Suyun took out the sword sheath and placed it beside him and said indifferently, because I have the ominous sword. This simple sentence seemed to be the embodiment of a supreme power. He had a sword that could destroy the world. The immortal leader swallowed his saliva, and his heartbeat quickened. What do you want to know? Everything you know, Suyun said. The immortal master nodded, thought for a moment, then slowly said, Then I'll start from after the ominous sword destroyed the world. My lord, perhaps you've heard that I'm not actually someone from the ancient times. Rather, I should say that I'm a person from the beginning of the ancient times. I've experienced all the events of the ancient times, and I've also experienced the apocalyptic scene of the ominous sword destroying the world. However, I've survived until now. All of this is, of course, not only because of my strength, but also because of my cultivation. You survived the blade of the evil sword. Hearing the immortal elder's words, Suyun revealed a surprised look and asked, What was your strength back then? You just entered the ascended god realm. The immortal master didn't seem surprised. How can someone who just entered the god ascension stage escape from the mouth of the ominous sword? Immortal leader, I hate people who speak nonsense the most. If you say that you're someone from the ancient times and was born after the ominous sword destroyed the world, I would believe you. But you say that you existed before the ominous sword destroyed the world. This is the biggest joke in the world. Suyun said angrily. Seeing this, the immortal master hurriedly stood up and said, My lord, you've wronged me. I indeed existed before the ominous sword destroyed the world. That was the desolate era, an era earlier than the ancient times. The people of the desolate era grasped more power than the people of the ancient times. They were also proficient in more strange methods. When the ominous sword destroyed the world, we used these methods to survive. Although there weren't many people who escaped from the ominous sword, there were still some. However, the methods we used were the same. The ominous sword destroyed the world in a total of 4 periods. They're the birth period, the rebellion period, the destruction period, and the dormant period. As the name implies, the birth period is before the ominous sword was born. No one knows how it was born, and no one even knows how long it has existed in this world. Our so-called birth period actually refers to the period when the ominous sword was discovered, and not the period when the ominous sword was born in this world. The location where the ominous sword was born is in the first realm of the 10,000 worlds, which is also this realm, the immortal world. The ominous sword was originally in silence in the immortal world. After an unknown amount of years, a sword cultivator sensed its existence and unearthed it. From that moment on, the fate of all the worlds in the universe changed. You should have all heard of the location where the ominous sword was unearthed. It is the immortal world's chaos domain. It is a deathly, silent world. It is said that even the ancestors will be devoured there. Ever since the ominous sword was born, no one has ever stepped foot there. The immortal world's chaos domain. Hearing that, Suyun's heart jumped. That place could be said to be the most mysterious, forbidden area in the 10,000 worlds. No one had ever entered that place, and that place was said to be the center of the immortal world. The area it occupied was said to cover 1/3 of the entire immortal world. Really, could it be there? Chapter 1538. The evil sword was unearthed and held by the sword cultivator, who relied on the evil sword to immediately step into the position of the sword god. He relied on the evil sword to challenge people everywhere, snatching a large amount of sword techniques and magic treasures, frantically increasing his own cultivation, and not long after, he advanced to the god-sealing realm. You must know that he was originally just a small, early-stage, spirit-profound god, and in the immortal world at that time, he was just like an ant. The people of the desolate era had a much more precise and ingenious understanding of power than the current immortals, and the overall strength of the immortals was also very strong. At that time, the number of people in the origin deity realm was uncountable, and the so-called great immortals of the god-sealing realm were also everywhere, and there were dozens of ancestors. However, those powerful people could not escape from the evil sword, and the sword cultivator relied on this evil sword to leap forward in 100 years, directly stepping into the peak of the god-sealing realm, and was almost about to create his own small world and step into the ancestor realm. However, he used the evil sword for a long time, but did not completely control this terrifying sword. This sword had long since gained intelligence, and was smarter than ordinary people. The reason why he used this sword cultivator was completely because he had a purpose. Just as expected, when this sword cultivator was about to break through the god-sealed realm and step into the ancestor realm, there were finally ancestors who could no longer watch. More than 10 ancestors found the place where the sword cultivator hid and cultivated and took action together to steal the evil sword. The sword cultivator was no match for them and died on the spot, and the evil sword became an ownerless object. Who wouldn't want such a terrifying treasure? Thus, the Ancestor War broke out, and more than 10 ancestors participated in the war. How destructive was it? Half of the immortal world was destroyed, and maybe you don't know, but the ancestors at that time were actually the strongest existences. No one succeeded in breaking through the ancestor realm and stepped into a higher realm. So these ancestors, no one stopped them. They were like the gods of this world, and for that mysterious sword, they fought and slaughtered crazily. They shattered the sun, moon, and stars, tore apart the heavens and earth, and used their power to summon millions of immortals to help. And that was not enough. Immortals, humans, demons, ghosts, devils, beasts, and other existences were all pulled in, and the rest of the ancestors could not stay out of it, and participated in the battle. That battle could be said to be the most tragic battle after the Creator, and the scope of the battle had already covered the 10,000 worlds, and everyone only had one goal, and that was to obtain control of the evil sword. And during this period, it was the rebellious period of the evil sword. The appearance of the rebellion period was not only because of everyone's greed, but also because of the ominous sword. It fully exploited people's thirst for power and treasures, which then led to this earth-shattering battle. That sword cultivator's strength was not high, but how did he discover the ominous sword? In reality, he didn't find the evil sword, but the evil sword found him and purposely exposed itself, which caused the sword cultivator to unearth the evil sword. Then, the evil sword used the sword cultivator to display its strength, attracting the attention of countless people, including the ancestors, and thus caused this catastrophe. In this catastrophe, more than 20 ancestors died, and those in the ascended immortal realm died like pigs. Those below the ascended immortal realm died like pigs and dogs, and those below the ascended immortal realm, when they died, not even their corpses could be found. Many people were afraid and wanted to retreat from the battle, but the ancestors used their boundless mana to forcefully control their souls and bodies, forcing them to participate in the battle. In this battle, hundreds of millions of people died, and this battle helped the evil sword. In this battle, the evil sword crazily absorbed the power of the immortals. It was like an insatiable glutton, crazily devouring and gnawing on the murderous aura, evil energy, and ferocious energy that people emitted. It stole the power of those who died, completely converting their power into its own. Then, when the rebellious period reached its climax, it initiated the 10,000 Worlds calamity, which was also recorded in the history books of the 10,000 Worlds, the doomsday of all living beings in the heavens. World destruction. The world destruction lasted for a total of 33 days. After 33 days, all living beings were wiped out, civilization was destroyed, the realms collapsed, and the universe was destroyed. The primordial era was completely over, and it remained silent for 70 million years. Only then did the so-called ancient era arrive, and this period of time was the so-called period of silence. This was also a huge gap in the 10,000 worlds, an insurmountable gap between the primordial era and the ancient era. At this point, the immortal elder sighed, his eyes filled with sorrow and helplessness. Su Yun and Jinshi Immortal had long sunk into silence after hearing the immortal elder's words. It was probably the first time Jinshi Immortal heard the details of the evil sword, and he was unable to regain his senses for a long time. On the other hand, Su Yun was concerned about another problem. Seeing that the immortal elder had stopped, he slowly opened his mouth. Then, how did you avoid the evil sword and escape the fate of being destroyed? Hearing Su Yun's question, Jinshi Immortal's body trembled as he looked at the immortal elder. The evil sword was so strong, and the immortal elder's cultivation at that time should not have been at the pseudo-ancestor realm. So how did he avoid the evil sword? The immortal elder was silent for a moment, then slowly said, "Do you know why the evil sword wanted to destroy the world?" "No." Su Yun shook his head. "In truth, I don't know either, but we guessed that the evil sword destroyed everything. Maybe it was to increase its own power." "Increase its power?" "This is just our guess, just like how the evil sword caused the 10,000 worlds to fight and kill. Those who died could be directly transformed by it and become a part of its power. After it destroyed the world, its power had already reached a terrifying height that even thinking can't imagine. I believe that if it wanted to destroy the world again, I'm afraid it wouldn't even need the 33 heavens." The immortal elder paused and sank into his memories again. "I remember when the evil sword was officially activated, the scene of the great battle, including the ancestors, instantly turned into nothingness and died under the evil sword's blade. Its sword body, turned into a sword blade that covered the sky, traversed across the immortal world and slashed downwards, destroying the universe and shattering fate. The world was completely destroyed, and then it followed the void and headed towards another world. In the 10,000 worlds, there were many hidden almighty beings, and among these hidden almighty beings, there were a few ancestors. They hid in small worlds and did not participate in the war of the 10,000 worlds. They were not the least bit interested in the evil sword, so they did not participate in the great battle. They used their own soul blood as a guide to unleash their strongest power in an attempt to stop the ominous sword. However, all they could do was stall for time. It was precisely because of their existence that the ominous sword took 33 heavens to destroy the world. Hearing that, Su Yun's mind immediately surfaced the image of the demonic ancestor blocking the evil sword. Even though his body was destroyed, his willpower could not be destroyed. How exciting was that? But there was nothing he could do about it. And it was because of the fearlessness of our ancestors that we managed to buy time and successfully avoided the calamity. If not for those almighty beings, we would not have been able to find that crack and live. Crack. Su Yun frowned. What crack? A crack that connects to the immortal world. Golden Pool Immortal said softly. That crack is located in the last world of the 10,000 worlds. In the prehistoric era, it was called the Death Realm, and now it is called the Demon Realm. Demon Realm? Su Yun was startled. Yes, the realm he created was also called the Death Realm, and that person was the devil ancestor of the devil world. After the fierce sword started to destroy the world, I ran all the way. The fierce sword started to destroy the world from the first world, the immortal world, and that person was the devil ancestor of the devil world. After the fierce sword started to destroy the world, I ran all the way. The fierce sword started to destroy the world from the first world, the immortal world, and that person was the devil ancestor of the devil world. After the fierce sword started to destroy the world, I ran all the way. The fierce sword started to destroy the world from the first world, the immortal world, and that person was the devil ancestor of the devil world. After the fierce sword started to destroy the world, I ran all the way. The fierce sword started to destroy the world from the first world, the immortal world, and that person was the devil ancestor of the devil world. After the fierce sword started to destroy the world, I ran all the way. The fierce sword started to destroy the world from the first world, the immortal world, and that person was the devil ancestor of the devil world. After the fierce sword started to destroy the world, I ran all the way. The fierce sword started to destroy the world from the first world, the immortal world, and that person was the devil ancestor of the devil world. After the fierce sword started to destroy the world, I ran all the way. The fierce sword started to destroy the world from the first world, the immortal world, and that person was the devil ancestor of the devil world. After the fierce sword started to destroy the world, I ran all the way. The fierce sword started to destroy the world from the first world, the immortal world, and that person was the devil ancestor of the devil world. Wanhua realm, Su Yin muttered. That ancestor said that she had already foreseen the calamity of the myriad realms, but she could not accurately see the evil sword destroying the world. She wanted to save all of this, but she could not do so and could not stop the evil sword. However, she calculated that there would still be a chance in the last realm. So before the evil sword ascended, she rushed towards the death realm. She had already made all the preparations and gave us a small world sealed with a magic treasure. She also told us that she would use her supreme divine ability to open a crack, allowing us to pass through the crack and return to the center of the immortal world, which is also the immortal world chaos domain. After the immortal world was destroyed by the evil sword, it was filled with evil chi. Even if we entered the immortal world through the crack, we would not be able to survive, but that supreme expert gave us some things again, and it was through these things that we managed to survive. What are these things? Su Yin asked anxiously. A wooden box and many swords. The wooden box is very big, and there is a set of strange array formation carved on it. It is a set of sword formation, and we do not understand it, but we still set up the formation according to the patterns on it. We only spent an hour to set up the formation, but during this period of time, we lost over 100 immortals, and the aura at that time was still fatal, even to the current me. If not for the endless life force that leaked out of the wooden box to resist the evil sword chi, I'm afraid we wouldn't even have been able to hold on for a single breath. The formation was formed, and the vicious aura was isolated. We survived, and after 10,000 years, the evil chi in the immortal world gradually became sparse, especially the evil chi around the immortal world chaos domain. Because of the chaos domain, it is no longer so fatal, and thus, we discussed whether or not we should follow the other important mission given to us by the supreme expert. What mission? Su Yun's breathing became a little tight. The immortal elder looked at Su Yun and said seriously, "Seal the evil sword." Seal the evil sword? Relying on you, spirit goddess. Can you do it? Su Yun questioned. That's right. Not only did you think so, at that time, we all thought so, but none of us could be sure whether or not the evil sword would launch a second world extermination. As a result, there was a strong disagreement between us. Some insisted on maintaining the status quo and not provoking the evil sword, while others insisted on sealing the evil sword. The wooden box that the ancestor gave us was the lifeline of nature, the great desolate divine tree, and was made from the essence of the tree trunk. She cut down the great desolate divine tree, and the natural world withered. But in order to continue the fire of life, everything she did was worth it and was also worthy of praise. At that time, we quarreled very fiercely, and for an entire 10 years, we argued about whether or not we should seal the evil sword, and there were also many people who doubted whether or not this wooden box could seal the evil sword. And then, a terrifying phenomenon made everyone come to an agreement. What phenomenon? Immortal Jin Shi finally spoke, but his voice was very hoarse, and he was completely immersed in the words of the immortal elder. The immortal elder looked at immortal Jin Shi and said, "That is the evil sword's evil chi, and it is still continuously seeping into the myriad worlds." How could it be like this? Immortal Jin Shi was shocked. After the evil sword destroyed the world, it immersed itself in the last realm, which is the demon realm. This is also why the demon realm does not have the slightest bit of spirit chi, only the cold and ruthless devil chi. Actually, the devil chi of the devil cultivator is mostly influenced by the evil chi. At that time, the evil chi of the other realms could not be diluted, and the excess evil chi had already run into the immortal realm. If we did not take action, the sword formation would collapse, and we would not have the excess materials to repair the sword formation. Sooner or later, we would also die. Thus, someone finally took the lead and decided to seal the sword formation. At this point, the immortal elder sighed again and said with a guilty expression, "Speaking of which, I'm not afraid of being mocked by my lord, but a small group of people, and I did not participate in the matter of sealing the evil sword. Instead, we hid in the sword formation and quietly waited for death." Chapter 1539. No one knew what kind of despair the people of the ominous sword era had experienced, but they could understand that no matter how strong a person's will was, in the face of such a destructive situation, they would collapse into a mess. We are waiting for news. We all feel that they will not succeed. The wooden box can disperse the ominous chi, but how much can it disperse? They can't even reach the last realm. The terrifying ominous sword on the way is enough to kill them. And the best way is to use a magic treasure to put people inside, and then put the magic treasure into the wooden box, isolate the ominous chi, and bring people into the death world. But on the way, there must be sacrifices, and the sacrifice will not be small. Those people, I know, they are all dead. Even the last person who sealed the ominous sword in the wooden box should be dead by now. Even if they reach the death world, they will not be able to seal the ominous sword. The sword chi of the ominous sword is even more terrifying than the ominous chi. This is not something that the wooden box can block. Their chances of success are less than 10%, but we waited in the sword formation for close to 10,000 years, until the sword formation was destroyed. Only then did we realize that the ominous chi in the immortal world had already thinned a lot. It did not affect us at all. We thought that they had succeeded, but later on we found out that they did not succeed in sealing the ominous sword. Their last person died at the entrance of the death world. They did not even get close to the ominous sword, but the ominous sword mysteriously disappeared. Along with the wooden box, we suspected that there were other peerless almighty beings involved in this matter. But all of this we can only imagine. We survived and brought the seed of the primogenitor of nature. After the ominous chi was completely purged, we scattered it to the myriad worlds. The period of silence ended. The myriad worlds recovered, and the ancient era arrived, and that period of memory was also carried by us. This is all that the ominous sword destroyed the world and was born in the ancient era. After saying all this, the immortal master seemed to be extremely tired. His entire body was covered in sweat, as if these memories made him unable to breathe. Su Yun and the Golden Pool Immortal were speechless for a long time. After an unknown period of time, Su Yun spoke. "The devil world is my territory, but I have never heard of that crack." "Where's that crack?" Su Yun had been the demon lord of the true devil realm for a few years. Ever since he had taken control of the true devil realm, although he did not dare say that he knew everything about the true devil realm, he still knew a thing or two. If there really was such a strange crevice, Su Yun would be the first to know about it. Of course, he would also send people to investigate, but in reality, he had never heard of any crevice. How would you not have heard of the rift? Isn't there a famous river in the devil realm that is said to be connected to the netherworld? Actually, that river wasn't connected to the netherworld, but to the myriad of worlds. The most important of them was the immortal world. That river was created by the primogenitor of nature at the cost of her own life. Back then, the demon ancestor used his flesh and blood to fight against the vicious sword and fought for half a day for us. The supreme expert of nature also used his own life to open up a crack for us. At this critical juncture, the two ancestors did not think about their own lives. Instead, they were worried about the continuation of the future. Now that I think about it, I feel ashamed of my own inferiority. This is probably the reason why I can't step into the ancestor realm. That newly opened crevice was originally full of vitality, but because it was covered by the vicious aura, it turned into the current river Styx. The immortal elder said. Hearing that, Su Yun was suddenly enlightened. "So, you guys relied on this to avoid this calamity?" "Yes," the immortal elder sighed again. All of this was so dramatic that no one could imagine what would happen to the group of people who had suffered the calamity. However, Su Yun knew one thing. The wooden box that the ancestor of nature had given them should be the limitless sword sheath. Just who sealed the vicious sword in the sword sheath? Who sealed the vicious sword? Do you guys really not know? Su Yun asked the Immortal Elder. The Immortal Elder shook his head. We really don't know. Those who went to seal were all dead. When we went over, we could only rely on techniques to peek at the traces of what happened here. But it was just a trace. We are weak and our abilities are limited. We can't do much. As for the vicious sword, its chi is too strong. Even if we use techniques, we can't peek at it. How the vicious sword was sealed is still a mystery. If that was the case, then Su Yun was more willing to believe that the vicious sword sealed itself. Maybe after the vicious sword absorbed too much energy, it produced a sword spirit, which was Ling Qingyu. She relied on her own willpower to set up a seal based on the sword array on the wooden box and sealed the vicious sword inside. In truth, Su Yun thought that the sword array could not completely seal the vicious sword. As long as Ling Qingyu was willing, the vicious sword would definitely be able to break out of the sword sheath. Those who survived with you, where are they now? Just then, Su Yun asked again. The Immortal Elder shook his head. There's no news, but most of them were corroded by the vicious sword's chi. Some of them died not long after, and some of them were unable to improve because of the vicious sword's chi. I don't know if they're still alive or not. I can be considered to be lucky. Is that so? Su Yun was deep in thought. The Immortal Elder looked at Su Yun. After a moment, he carefully asked, Master, I heard that the vicious sword is in your hands now. I wonder why you are asking about this. The Immortal Elder was also very afraid. It was not easy for him to live until today. But Su Yun suddenly asked him about this. He was worried that Su Yun was unable to control the vicious sword in his hands. In fact, in his eyes, Su Yun, the ancestor, was extremely similar to the sword cultivator who unearthed the vicious sword. Maybe not long after, Su Yun would die. It's nothing. I'm just interested in the ancient times. Su Yun said indifferently. Ancient times? Master, what I'm talking about is not the ancient times, but the prehistoric times. The people of the ancient times, because of the vicious sword's chi, had a lot of hostility in their hearts. Because of the vicious sword's chi, their strength increased extremely quickly, but also because of the vicious sword's chi, they became extremely ruthless. That's why there were many wars in the ancient times, and they would often destroy the realm. That's why those who survived in the ancient times were all powerful people. The Immortal Elder said. He had said most of what he needed to say, and Su Yun was not very interested in the rest. Su Yun nodded his head. He calculated for a moment, then stood up and said indifferently, It's getting late. I won't disturb you anymore. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving first. Farewell. Why don't you convene this divine pill assembly with me? The pills that I concoct are also somewhat effective for the ancestor. The Immortal Elder invited. But Su Yun's mind was on the vicious sword and was not interested in the divine pill. Furthermore, the Immortal Elder had spent so much time and effort to refine the divine pill. If he were to take it away, it would be too unreasonable. Su Yun also believed that the Immortal Elder was eager for him to leave. After all, he was the ancestor, and the Immortal Elder was extremely embarrassed. Immortal Elder, I appreciate your good intentions. If there's a chance in the future, I'll come and participate in the Immortal Elder's divine pill assembly. With that said, Su Yun turned and left. Immortal Jin Qi immediately followed. Take care, Master. The Immortal Elder cupped his fists again, but his eyes were secretly looking at Su Yun's departing figure. His eyes were filled with worry. Su Yun's question made him feel deeply uneasy. On the way back to the ninth heaven, Su Yun's mind was filled with worries, and he did not say a word. Immortal Jin Qi wanted to talk to Su Yun, but seeing Su Yun's serious face, he chose to give up in the end. After an unknown period of time, Jin Qi, Su Yun shouted. Hearing that, Immortal Jin Qi immediately flew over and cupped his fists. Master, what orders do you have? Regarding the matter of the vicious sword annihilation, you are not allowed to tell anyone. Understand? Su Yun said solemnly. Jin Qi was startled. He did not understand. Why would he hide such a thing? But since Su Yun had said so, he did not think too much about it, and nodded. Master, don't worry. I will keep my mouth shut. When you return to the encampment, do not mention a single word to the people in the encampment. If the news is leaked, you should know the consequences." These words were extremely cold. Immortal Jin Shi's entire body trembled. How could he dare to go against Su Yun's wishes? He nodded repeatedly. Just like that, the two of them returned to the ninth heaven. At this moment, the ninth heaven was still constructing defensive measures to guard against Dark Sky's attack. The stone tablet placed in the center was already mostly cracked, and it should only take around 10 days for the stone tablet to completely shatter. Everyone was seizing the time to cultivate. Su Yun walked to the front of the stone tablet and stared at the gigantic stone tablet. He had already completely comprehended the contents of the stone tablet, and in truth, there was no longer a need for the stone tablet to exist, as his brain had everything on it. Su Yun called Wei Ming over and said softly, "Pass down the order. Stop comprehending. Everyone prepare for battle. Dark Sky is about to attack." Hearing that, Wei Ming was shocked. "Master, is the news reliable?" Wei Ming was startled. He did not even receive any news of Dark Sky. So why was Dark Sky attacking them all of a sudden? There's no mistake in this matter. Immediately give the order for everyone to prepare. Other than that, this matter cannot be leaked. Let everyone do it in secret. If Dark Sky knows that we are prepared, he will definitely not act rashly, and we will miss a good opportunity. Understand? Su Yun said in a low voice. Wei Ming nodded his head seriously. "Master, don't worry. I know what to do." "Very good. Go and find Faceless." "Yes." Wei Ming cupped his fists and left. Not long after, Faceless rushed over. "Master, Faceless, I'll instruct you to do something. This matter must be kept secret, and no one can know about it," Su Yun said in a low voice. Hearing that, the eyes under the mask became serious. "Master, please instruct me." Su Yun then went over and whispered a few words into his ear. Faceless' eyes were filled with doubt, but he did not ask any further. He cupped his fists and turned to leave. Chapter 1540. Inside the world of the sword sheath, Su Yun stood quietly in front of the evil sword. The terrifying chi was like the mouth of a demon, ruthlessly biting at his body, but he did not feel anything. Even though his ancestor's chi was dropping crazily, he did not seem to feel anything. The ominous sword array was almost depleted, and new spirit sword were unable to enter the ceiling sword array through the ominous sword spirit chi to replenish the sword array. And Ling Qing, he was unable to suppress the ominous sword's spirit chi, so it was only a matter of time before the ominous sword broke through the seal. Everything seemed so dilapidated and desolate, and everything made people feel despair and hesitation. "You've already been standing here for an entire day." A weak voice appeared beside Su Yun. Su Yun did not say anything. After a moment of silence, he turned around and looked at Ling Qingyu with a serious expression. "Back then, was it you who sealed the main body of the evil sword?" He spoke slowly. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded her head lightly. "You are the sword spirit of the evil sword. Could it be that you suspect something? Since you are a sword spirit, you should represent the will of the evil sword, but now you are no longer able to control the evil sword. Qingyu, tell me honestly, what is the current situation of the evil sword?" Su Yun asked in a low voice. "Everything is fine." Her voice was still hesitant, but it was no longer convincing. "Do you still want to lie to me?" Su Yun pointed to the main body of the evil sword and said, "The power in the center is enough to easily devour the ancestor. This power, can you take it back? Can you stop the evil sword's chi from continuing to leak out?" "You can't. Something must have happened to the evil sword." Su Yun placed both of his hands on Ling Qingyu's shoulders, not letting her avoid his gaze. He looked straight at her and said, "Qingyu, I will not let you face it alone again. Don't you know, the current you is already unable to stop all of this. You are not me. You do not know my ability. I will stop all of this." She bravely met Su Yun's gaze and insisted, but these words gave off a feeling of powerlessness. "Do you still want to continue being stubborn? This is not stubbornness." Ling Qingyu's entire body trembled. She opened her mouth to speak, but in the next second, a pair of thick lips pasted on her soft and fragrant lips. Ling Qingyu's delicate body froze. She looked at Su Yun in shock. Her mind was blank. She did not resist at all. She wanted to push Su Yun away, but Su Yun did not let her have her way. After a long while, when Ling Qingyu was out of breath, he let go. "You asshole!" Ling Qingyu's pale face flushed red as she said angrily. "Qingyu, I want you to know how I feel about you, and also understand your position in my heart." Su Yun raised his head and looked at the gigantic sword. His voice was extremely hoarse. "Tell me honestly, are you planning to destroy the main body of the sword?" Ling Qingyu's face was still flushed red. She suddenly raised her head and looked at him, then lowered it anxiously and said, "No. Why did you lie to me?" Su Yun insisted. Why would I want to destroy the ominous sword? Wouldn't that be suicide for me? But there is no way to stop the ominous sword now. Sooner or later, it will break through the seal, break out of the sword's sheath, and reappear in the world. At that time, the scene of destruction will reappear. The 10,000 worlds will once again experience a cleansing. "No, Su Yun, don't worry, I will solve it," Ling Qingyu muttered, but her words seemed to be getting more and more strenuous. Su Yun was not an idiot. If Ling Qingyu could really solve it, how could the sword sheath's world be like this? Su Yun liked Ling Qingyu, and along the way, his feelings for Ling Qingyu were no less than Su Qing'er's. At the same time, he understood that Ling Qingyu valued him greatly. But after so many years of interaction, Su Yun understood that no matter what kind of difficulties appeared, Ling Qingyu was not willing to let him know, and instead liked to face it alone, to bear it alone. If the ominous sword really broke free from Ling Qingyu's control, then Su Yun would definitely not be able to escape. According to Ling Qingyu's personality, she would probably use extreme methods to end everything. After all, that was the only way. Just then, a muffled sound suddenly exploded out from the ominous sword. Su Yun looked over, only to see that a huge crack had appeared on the ominous sword. The terrifying ominous sword Qi was like a storm that swept out in all directions. The death sword that was guarding the ominous sword was immediately engulfed by the storm. The entire sword was violently destroyed and was on the verge of collapse. At the same time, Ling Qingyu's delicate body trembled violently. She spat out a mouthful of blood, her face becoming even uglier. What was going on? Su Yun's eyes were wide open. He looked at the scene in disbelief, only to see Ling Qingyu suddenly raise her hand, grabbing onto Su Yun and pushing him. A crack immediately appeared behind him. He was pushed out of the sword sheath, and he could faintly hear Ling Qingyu's weak voice. "Danger, you go first." Su Yun's face became ugly. He immediately opened the sword sheath again, planning to rush in. But the moment he opened it, the terrifying, ominous sword Qi immediately spewed out. He was unable to enter, as though something extremely terrifying had happened inside. Su Yun sat down cross-legged. He knew that even if he went in, he would be devoured by the ominous sword Qi. He remembered clearly what he had seen just now. The ominous sword had split open, and Ling Qingyu was also injured. Nothing could harm the ominous sword, only the sword spirit itself. Su Yun was already sure of what Ling Qingyu was planning to do. He took a deep breath, stood up, and walked towards the center of the ninth heaven. He had already kept the stone tablet, even though many people were disappointed, but at this time, Su Yun could no longer care about their feelings. On the other hand, Ancestor Hao had already comprehended most of it, and his cultivation had increased by a lot. Looking at his smiling face, it seemed like the stone tablet had given him a lot of surprises. And Su Qing'er's increase was even more shocking. After this period of comprehension, her qi was much denser than before. It seemed to be about to surpass Ancestor Hao. "Why did you put it away all of a sudden? Could it be that it's really as I heard, that dark sky is about to come and snatch the stone tablet?" Seeing Su Yun walking over, Hao Qian went up to him and asked softly, "Dark sky will not come to snatch the stone tablet, but there is a calamity that is even more terrifying than dark sky coming. Hao Qian, I believe in you. At this time, there are not many people who can help me. Bring these people and go to the demon realm first." Su Yin said indifferently. Hearing Su Yun's words, Hao Yin was confused. Calamity? What calamity? Su Yin explained it clearly. But Su Yin did not explain and turned to leave. Su Luluo was still busy, looking at her hurried figure. Su Yin suddenly felt guilty. All these years, if not for Su Luluo helping him with these trivial matters, how could Su Yin gather so much power? And how could he stand firm in the immortal world? He walked over, but Su Luluo did not hear him. Her attention was completely focused on the barrier in front of her, where a few Origin Realm immortals were busy setting up the barrier. This barrier was able to defend against the attacks of the God Realm immortals. It was very powerful, but it would take a lot of time to set up. In order to ensure that the array diagram in his hands would not be exposed, Su Luluo would personally teach people how to set it up. Luluo, Su Yin called out. Hearing the familiar voice, Su Luluo was startled. He stopped and looked at the black-robed young man standing behind him. Brother? What's the matter? Su Luluo asked curiously. Nothing much. Come with me and talk to me for a while. Su Yin said. Su Luluo was suspicious, but he did not say much. He summoned Xing Bai, who was not far away, and handed the matter over to him, and then followed Su Yun out of the ninth heaven. Outside the ninth heaven, there were very few immortals. All of them were sent by Su Yun's subordinates to carry out missions. Seeing Su Yun and Su Luluo coming out, everyone greeted them and left tactfully. Brother, did something happen? Su Luluo was silent for a moment, then asked carefully. No, but I've already asked the Golden Pool Immortal to inform you. You should be ready, right? Su Yin smiled, looking very relaxed. But Su Luluo thought for a while, then said, We must be prepared. We can leave at any time, but I do not understand. It is just in dark sky. He is just an ancestor. And in the ninth heaven, including you, there are a total of 3 ancestors. Even if he has ill intentions towards a stone tablet, it is impossible for him to snatch it from the hands of the 3 ancestors, right? Furthermore, Qing'er is still holding on to his precious disciple, Lung Xinru. From all the signs, he should only choose to negotiate with us and not attack us forcefully. Brother, unless you tell me that what we are facing right now is not only dark sky, but also some other existence, then I will believe that it is reasonable for you to want us to retreat. Her bright eyes flashed with a trace of wisdom. Hearing that, Su Yun was startled, looking at the young lady who claimed to be his sister but was not related to him by blood. Suddenly, he felt suffocated. You guessed right, what we have to face is not just dark sky. Su Yun took a deep breath and did not hide anything. He hesitated for a moment, then continued. What we have to face is also, there's no need to say it. Just as Su Yin was about to confess, Su Luluo smiled and interrupted him. Su Yin looked at her, only to see that the young lady was smiling like a flower. Her eyes were like crescent moons, and she said softly, Since Big Brother doesn't want me to worry, then I won't pursue the matter to the end. Big Brother, you don't have to tell me everything. I will understand you. It was a simple sentence, but revealed her incomparable trust in Su Yun. Su Yun looked at her in a daze. After a long while, he reached out and gently embraced her. Luluo, thank you. I should be the one saying thank you. Su Luluo leaned on his chest and said softly. Chapter 1541. The two of them stood in the sky, looking at the boundless sky in front of them, not saying a word for a long time. Ever since Su Luluo had taken over the encampment and power in Su Yun's hands, she had not rested for a single moment. Back then, during the rule of the Immortal Court, not only did she have to develop the encampment, she also had to avoid the Immortal Court's eyes and ears. And after the Immortal Court was overturned, she still had to deal with the various relationships between the encampment after the Immortal Court fell, and deal with the so-called enemies of the Immortal Court and friends of the Immortal Court. Not long after, the Eternal God Council came looking for them again. Facing this colossus that was even stronger than the Immortal Court, the pressure Su Luluo had to bear was extremely huge. The reason Su Yin was able to reach this step was not because of his own hard work, but because of the support of countless people. In terms of merit, it should not be him, Su Yin. Big Brother, when are we going to the Demon Realm? Su Luluo chatted with Su Yun for a while, then asked, "Wait a little longer. I will pay attention to Dark Sky's movements, and then inform you." Su Yun said, "Pay attention to Dark Sky's movements? Big brother, we don't even know where Dark Sky is right now. How can you know where Dark Sky is?" Su Luluo said, "With the stone tablet and Lung Shinru, Dark Sky will appear." Su Yun said slowly, "Oh." Su Luluo nodded. He seemed to have thought of something. Su Yun looked at her beautiful face and said slowly, "Luluo, after this matter is over, bring Qing and the others to an empty realm and live a good life. Don't get involved in the disputes of the 10,000 realms anymore, and let the people below disperse as well. Distribute the resources of the forces. There is no need to keep them, even if it is a treasure. As long as you do not bring anything valuable, no one will have their eyes on you, and there will be no more trouble. Understand?" "Brother, are you planning to go into seclusion?" Su Luluo asked. Su Yun nodded. "What about you? Why do you want me to bring them? Why not you? I have more important things to do. Maybe I won't be able to meet you for a long time." Su Yun said. His voice was a little hoarse. Su Luluo lowered her head, her eyes revealing a trace of sorrow. Su Luluo was not an idiot. On the contrary, she was very smart, so smart that even Su Yun could not figure it out. He believed that Su Luluo had already found some clues from his words, but she would not probe further. She understood Su Yun and understood that he had his reasons for doing so. She would not reject any of Su Yun's decisions and would only silently support him. There was no need to say anything else. Su Yun and Su Luluo just strolled in the clouds, wanting to express something to each other, but unable to open their mouths. "Do you miss them?" After an unknown period of time, Su Yun spoke up, breaking the silence. "Boo." Su Luluo was a little dazed. "You know them?" Su Luluo's expression darkened, then said, "They're doing very well now. You should go and see them. It's best if you can bring them to the Devil Realm. Bring all the people who are important to you here. Don't leave them outside," Su Yun said. But Su Luluo looked at him quietly and said, "You should understand, you are the most important to me." When the two of them parted, it was already 6 hours later. Even though they had chatted for 6 hours, the two of them felt that they had not finished saying all the words in their stomachs, or rather, they had just started the conversation. However, Su Yun did not have much time left. The stone tablet was not going to be completely destroyed. Su Luo returned to the 9th heaven and started to worry about the matters of the power, while Su Yun flew towards the 8th heaven, where Hu Qianmei and the others were arranged to rest. When Su Yun ascended to the 8th heaven, Hu Qianmei and the Realm Master were already waiting for him in front of the heavy door. "Realm Master said that you would come, so I waited for you here." Hu Qianmei laughed and said. Su Yun laughed, but helplessness surfaced in his eyes. "Are you here to say goodbye again?" Hu Qianmei asked. The word again deeply pierced Su Yun's heart. "There won't be a next time, I promise." He laughed seriously. "Really?" Hu Qianmei's small face revealed joy. Su Yun reached out and caressed her head. His gaze shifted and landed on the sickly beauty beside her. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but the Realm Master had already shook her head. "Don't worry too much. Whatever you want to do, hurry up and do it. We will support you. No matter what happens in the future, you will always be my husband. This will not change." She chuckled, like a spring breeze bathing in the rain. Su Yun opened up his wide chest and embraced the two girls. He gently hugged them and cuddled them. The two girls did not say anything, only feeling his heartbeat. After an unknown period of time, "Did you go see my junior sister?" Hu Qianmei suddenly asked. "Not yet. Hurry up and go. She hasn't seen you in a long time since she came to the 9th heaven. She misses you very much." Hu Qianmei laughed. Su Yun hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. "No rush. We'll stay a little longer. There's plenty of time to stay in the future. Hurry up and go." Hu Qianmei pushed and said. Su Yun could not hold on any longer and had no choice but to leave. Hu Qianmei and the Realm Master looked at his departing figure, but their gazes did not return for a long time. "You clearly know, yet you force yourself to smile. You should have sensed it," the Realm Master said softly. "No, I don't know anything." Hu Qianmei turned her head, but on her cute little face there was a smile and tears. The realm master pursed her lips, but did not say a word. On the other side of the eighth heaven was the place where Su Qing cultivated, and also the place where Long Xianli cultivated. The two of them had been together for a long time in the Sky Martial Continent, and adding on their previous interactions, their relationship was extremely good, so in the huge ninth heaven, the two of them were practically inseparable. When Su Yin walked to the pavilion where Su Qing was cultivating, the pavilion door was tightly shut, and Su Qing was still in closed-door cultivation. In the courtyard outside, Long Xianli was sitting on a stone bench, sipping on immortal tea and looking at the pleasing scenery. It was just that her eyes were a little absent-minded, as though she had a lot on her mind, and did not even notice Su Yin approaching. "Xianli," Su Yin shouted, pulling her back from her shock. "Su Yin, why are you here?" Long Xianli was obviously surprised. "I came to see you." Su Yin laughed. "Why did you think of coming to see me for no reason?" Long Xianli looked at Su Yin strangely, his eyes filled with doubt, but under that doubtful gaze, there was a hidden trace of joy. "It's been a long time since we last met. I've missed you so much," Su Yin said casually. The corner of Long Xianli's mouth raised, but he did not reply. His gaze landed on the immortal flowers and herbs in the courtyard. Su Yin did not say anything else. The two of them just looked at the flowers and plants. The surroundings were extremely quiet. The silence was better than the sound. "Do you still remember the first time we met?" Suddenly, Long Xianli broke the silence. "I remember. How could I not remember? At that time, you wanted to kill me." Su Yin laughed bitterly. That was an unknown number of years ago. It was buried in the depths of his memories. Even though that period of time was not very good, there were still moving memories that tugged at the emotions in the depths of his heart. "But in the end, I didn't kill you. At that time, you were already cunning enough. On the surface, you looked honest, but in reality, you were very cunning. However, I clearly saw through your tricks, but I still couldn't kill you. Do you know why? You like me? Shameless." Long Xianli fiercely rolled her eyes at him and said softly, "I have seen many shameless people, but I have never seen someone like you. The reason why I didn't kill you back then was because I felt that although you were cunning, you had your own principles and bottom line, and that you were not a bad person in your bones. What was bad was that in this world, sometimes many people were forced to be evil, but I saw unyielding and resistance from you, which made me very moved. If I were to kill you just like that, it would be a pity." "All right." Su Yin was speechless and only smiled. Long Xianli's gaze was still on the beautiful scenery, her pink lips slightly opened. "But now, thinking about this makes people sigh with emotion. The current you is already invincible. Even if I really wanted to kill you, I'm afraid that even 10,000 of me wouldn't be able to do it. Between you and me, we are no longer people of the same world." Saying that, her voice became gloomy. But in the next second, Long Xianli suddenly realized that her hand was being held by a warm, big hand. She was startled. Seeing the owner of the hand, she immediately struggled. "What's wrong with you?" she asked curiously, struggling more and more. But Su Yun's grip also became tighter. He retracted his gaze from the beautiful scenery and looked at her seriously. "You and I have never been separated, so how can we be in the same world? Xianli, my feelings you should have known a long time ago, but I also hope that you can understand I have never changed and will never change. No matter what stage I grow to, I am still me, still that Su Yun." Hearing that, Long Xianli's struggling hands calmed down. She quietly looked at Su Yun. After a long time, she smiled sweetly and shook her head. "Su Yun, what's wrong with you today? Why would you say such emotional words?" "Nothing much." Su Yun regained his senses and rubbed his nose. He stood up, looked into the distance, and said indifferently, "Xianli, let's leave it at that. I still have things to do. I'll leave first. Qing is about to come out. Aren't you going to wait for her to come out and chat with her?" Long Xianli asked. "No." Su Yun hesitated and slowly said, "Wait for Qing to come out. Tell her, I will come and find her." With that, Su Yun leaped and left the eighth heaven. Long Xianli looked at Su Yun's back strangely. Her heart was filled with fog. "Su Yun, what's going on?" Chapter 1542. After leaving the 8th heaven, Su Yun met with a few more people, and then left the 9th heaven alone. Everything here was handed over to Su Luluo to handle, and as for the defense, there was no longer a need. Su Luluo followed Su Yun's instructions and ordered people to tidy up, preparing to leave the 9th heaven at any time and bring the people from the encampment to the demon realm. On the other side of the demon realm and the underworld, they also received news from the 9th heaven. When Octagon Aniseed heard Su Yun's plan, he immediately rushed to the demon realm. Of course, no one knew what Su Yun's final goal was, but out of trust in him, no one questioned him. Very quickly, the people of the 9th heaven and the encampment were ready to leave at any time, but they still needed to wait for Su Yun's orders. Su Yun took a deep breath and arrived at a place where there was no one. This place was very far from the 9th heaven, but it was very close to the center region of the immortal world. He took out a pagoda from his interspatial bag and activated it. A figure flew out and fell on the cloud ground. That figure was Lung Xinru. While Su Qinger was in closed-door cultivation, she handed Lung Xinru over to him. In Lung Xinru's memories, there were a lot of information about Dark Heaven, so Su Yun naturally would not be courteous. He immediately used the great exquisite technique and found out where Dark Heaven might be hiding. Of course, just knowing where he was hiding was far from enough. If Dark Heaven wanted it, with the ancestors' methods, he could set up 100 or even 1,000 hiding places. However, with Lung Xinru's help, it would be much easier to track in Tian's whereabouts. Su Yun brought Lung Xinru to the side of the chaos domain and sat there quietly. The number of immortals within a radius of 10,000 miles of the chaos domain gradually decreased, as though there was an invisible force driving them away. Su Yun turned a deaf ear to it, carrying the sword sheath on his back. He sat on the ground, while Lung Xinru was bound by her qi, standing there like a statue, unable to move. After an unknown period of time, crash! A terrifying qi suddenly exploded in front of Su Yun. Su Yun opened his eyes. Unknowingly, a figure had appeared in front of him. Master! Lung Xinru was extremely delighted when she saw who it was, and she shouted out right away. Are you okay? Dark Heaven said to Lung Xinru in a deep voice. Master, save me. Don't worry, I will take you away. Dark Sky comforted him, but after he said that, Su Yun also spoke. Whether or not I can take her away is not up to you to decide. Su Yun said indifferently and stood up, staring at him. Dark Sky seemed to be sizing him up. After a while, he said in a low voice, You deliberately released the ancient aura of the steel and brought her here. Your purpose must be to lure me out. Since there is no one lying in ambush nearby, it is obvious that you want to negotiate with me. Tell me, what is your purpose? If you want the stone tablet, I can give it to you. If you want your disciple back, I can also give it to you. However, you have to help me do something. If you can successfully complete it, these are all yours. Su Yun did not beat around the bush and said directly, What could be more important than the ancient stone tablet? And Tianchen asked. He was not an idiot. On the contrary, he was very cunning. This kind of matter was definitely not as easy as Su Yun said. Su Yun took out the sword sheath beside him and placed it on the ground, then said indifferently, Do you know what this is? A sword sheath made from the essence of the nature divine tree. Sealed inside is the ominous sword, right? And Tianchen's eyes flashed with a terrifying light of greed, and his voice became hoarse. Who was he? How could he not know what it was? So what? What? You want the ominous sword? Su Yun was extremely calm and composed. Even though Tianchen was standing in front of him, he did not take any precautionary action. And Tianchen's eyes turned sharp. He could tell that the current Su Yun was no longer in existence. He could easily kill. He seemed to have completely understood the contents of the stone tablet. In just a few years, his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. And Tianchen was shocked by Su Yun's talent. In truth, even if he were to comprehend the contents of the stone tablet, he would not be able to completely digest it in such a short period of time. However, what Tianchen did not know was that Su Yun actually had the inheritance of the Devil Saint's memories and a portion of the ancestors' memories. During his time as a pseudo-ancestor, he already had most of the ancestors' insights. It was just that he was unable to fully comprehend them, and the appearance of the stone tablet seemed to have given him an answer, allowing him to easily solve all the puzzles, and turning his cultivation path into a smooth path. I was just wondering why I did not erase you back then, until you grew to this stage. Do you regret it? Yes. It's useless to regret it now. This stone tablet is still useful to you. The stone tablet has already split very badly, and I predict that it will completely shatter and collapse in 5 days. However, if you use your strength to seal the form of the stone tablet, you can buy some time for it, and during this period of time, you can find a way to repair or even strengthen the stone tablet forever. I believe that you and Tianchun have a myriad of methods and will definitely have a way. This way, you will be able to have the stone tablet forever. As long as you have the stone tablet, you can climb to a higher realm, and you can also use it to nurture countless pseudo-ancestor or even ancestor. This will be of great help to you in unifying the myriad realms, right? Suyin said, and Tianchun glanced at him and said indifferently, "In my intelligence, you are not someone who will be cheated, but you clearly do not understand me. Tell me your purpose first." Suya did not say anything and pointed at the sword sheath. Ominous sword? Yes. What's wrong with the ominous sword? There's a problem with the seal formation inside, and I alone cannot repair the sword formation. I want you to help me. Su Yin said. Su Qing, and Hao Tian are both Ancestor Realm experts, and both of them are much stronger than me. You did not look for them, but came to me. How can I believe that your purpose is just to repair the sword formation? And Tianchun did not fall for it, and snorted. Su Yun smiled. You're right. I do not only want to repair the ominous sword formation. My true goal is to change the ominous sword formation. Change? Do you know anything about the ominous sword? I don't know anything about the ominous sword sealed in your sword sheath. Then you should know that I can't control the ominous sword, right? If you could control it, I would have been killed by you long ago. And Tianchun said softly, with the ominous sword, Su Yun could conquer everything, and even he was not his match. That's right. I am indeed unable to control the ominous sword. The power of the ominous sword is too strong, and I'm afraid no one in the 10,000 realms can control it. And because it is too strong, it was sealed, but recently there has been a problem with the seal of the ominous sword, and it is about to break free from the sealing sword formation and rush out of the sword sheath. Once it rushes out of the sword sheath, then the scene of the ominous sword destroying the world will appear again, and the 10,000 realms will be cleansed once again. At that time, neither of us will be able to live, and the battle between us will be meaningless. Su Yun said indifferently, but his words were extremely shocking. Even Lung Xanru, who was at the side, was stunned when she heard it. Ominous sword destroying the world? She had only heard of it in the rumors. Could it be that it was true? She had also heard of it from a Tianchun. The ominous sword destroying the world. Even the ancestors were like weeds. It was difficult to avoid. The 10,000 realms would be completely cleansed. No one would survive, and everything in the world would be reduced to nothingness. It was a true sword of ruler, controlling everything in the 10,000 realms. It was also a sword of termination, symbolizing destruction and rebirth. Although I can't control that sword, what I want to say is that I can control the ominous chi of that sword. You should be able to sense that many of your subordinates actually died under the ominous sword's sword chi. That's right. And Tianchun nodded his head and said, but even so, why did you look for me? Su Qing, and Hao Tian both think that the ominous sword chi is too berserk, and I can only control it a little. If I come into contact with too much of the ominous chi, my will be controlled by the ominous sword through the ominous chi, so they are against me doing this. Since I can't communicate with them, I can only ask someone who can agree to let me do this to help me. So I found you. I refuse. Without any hesitation, and Tianchun said those words. Su Yun looked at him, his face expressionless. Su Yun, after you became a fake ancestor, I more or less investigated you. I know that you are a very emotional person, especially towards the people around you. You will not allow them to be harmed in the slightest. So you said that Su Qing and how Tian did not support you doing this, and you chose to cooperate with me. I will not believe it. Furthermore, if I let you control the ominous sword Qi, even if I obtain the stone tablet, how can I be your opponent? Including you, you already have 3 primogenitors. I'm no longer a match for you. If you become even stronger, won't I have no way to survive? And Tianshun said coldly, since when has your intelligence been accurate? If you truly understood me, how would you end up like this? Su Yun's eyes glanced at him and said indifferently, furthermore, I want the ominous Qi, and I have no choice. If I do not think of a way to increase my strength, I am afraid that I will die. Oh, and Tianxin frowned. What do you mean? It's simple because my opponent is unprecedentedly powerful. Even if all 3 ancestors were to face him at the same time, they would not be able to defeat him. Su Yin raised his head and stared at Tianxin quietly. And Tianxin did not say a word, but he already understood Su Yun's words and understood what Su Yun meant. It turned out that Tianxin was not just an ancestor. His true strength was not something that Su Qing, Hao Tian, or even Su Yun could contend against. Since that's the case, you still dare to appear in front of me. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? And Tianxin said slowly. You can't do it, Su Yun said calmly, because I still have the ominous sword in my hand, and that is my bargaining chip. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.